Chapter 1098. Su Jihuan's mind suddenly went blank. We're done for. What do you think? Du Chaoye and Tang Ye's eyes fell on it. Su Jihuan smiled stiffly. Maybe we can only take a gamble. Tang Yi and Du Chaoye, after that bet, Oz found that Bei Yunj had been reading on the 6th floor for 3 consecutive days. Oz couldn't help but ask, didn't you want to get into the top 3? Why are you holed up here? They can do it. Bei Yunj turned a page and leaned lazily on the floor. Oz, don't you have a cushion or something? The floor is a bit hard. Oz's face darkened. I don't have time to serve you like an ancestor. Fortunately, he didn't let this girl become Miss Nani's disciple. Although this girl was talented, she was too confident. Sooner or later, she would suffer a big loss. Oz couldn't help but mock, little girl, don't cry when you lose. Time passed. It was finally the day of the announcement of the results. Bei Yunj had just sat down when she realized that Su Jihuan and the other two had dark circles under their eyes. Her eyelids twitched. What are you guys doing? Su Jihuan was still sleepy and her eyes were dull. Brother Yi insisted that we change according to your suggestions, so we stayed up all night for 2 days. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. She didn't expect them to work so hard. This is the semi-finals. Only 9 teams will advance. Su Jihuan clutched her little heart and continued, I hope we're lucky and can advance. 9th is fine too. At this moment, Wang Huiying, who came in, happened to hear Su Jihuan's words. Her lips curled and a trace of slyness and ridicule flashed across her eyes. A few days ago, she happened to meet the instructor in charge of the written exam and asked her to help spread the news of the written exam to all the teams. Therefore, in order to get Su Jihuan and Bei Yunj out of the competition early, she specially sent someone to inform Su Jihuan and the others on the last day. She just wanted to see Su Jihuan and the others powerless and have their willpower collapse. The team member beside Wang Huiying laughed. I heard that Su Jihuan's team only found out about the written exam in the last hour of the written exam. It seemed that no matter how well they did, they might not be able to enter the top 9. Originally, I was worried that they would be a threat to us. When Wang Huiying heard the last sentence, her eyes darkened. She smiled and turned her head. Qi, do you think anyone can be compared to me? Sing Qi smiled stiffly. No, suddenly. There was a commotion in the crowd. Look, isn't that the head of the Shi family from Confederate 191? My goodness, Patriarch Shi is here in person. Everyone was shocked, but they soon guessed the reason. Wang Huiying was the heir's daughter and the little Shi Nani of Confederation 191. Master Shi was probably here to see Wang Huiying take first place. Wang Huiying also straightened her back and couldn't help but smile. She had been waiting for this day for too long. Patriarch Shi is finally blind? He actually came to watch Wang Huiying's competition. Su Jihuan couldn't believe it. Next. Patriarch Shi smiled and said, thank you all for coming to participate in the competition. I'm just here to observe the competition today, so don't worry. After saying this, coincidentally, the tutor arrived late and was still panting. What's going on? Why is a tutor late? Patriarch Shi frowned. I'm not. The tutor's expression was ugly and he didn't know what to say. But when he thought of the results of the team he had just run back to check, he couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb. End of chapter. Chapter 1099. Hurry up and announce the results of the competition. Patriarch Shi frowned. The mentor wanted to say something but stopped. He couldn't help but glance at Wang Huiying. But before he could announce the rankings, the old man next to him snatched his report card. Old Han, what are you waiting for? Let me do it. Mentor Han's face darkened. Before he could speak, he was pushed aside by the old man. I'm sure everyone can feel the difficulty of this competition. There's no other way. There are so many excellent contestants this year. We have to lower the score. The old man said happily, otherwise, if the gap isn't big, you won't be satisfied if you lose, right? The contestants, they finally understood. This was to lower the score for Wang Huiying's team, so they suffered along with them. Wang Huiying looked helpless. No wonder the written test is so difficult. It's Grandpa Wu's doing again. You really didn't leave me a way out. Elder Crow also smiled. If Littlein can't do it, who else can? Your team is the only one with more than 30 points in the written test. Grandpa Wu is widening the gap for you. The audience was in heated discussion. What? The only one with more than 30 points? Wang Huiying is too unbelievable. Elder Crow began to announce, in this competition, a total of 9 teams have advanced to the finals. The 9th place will be announced. At this moment, only Mentor Han closed his eyes. He couldn't face this scene. No way. Su Jihuan almost blacked out. Are they deliberately provoking us? Bei Yunj next to her comforted, maybe the results are good. Su Jihuan's smile was very stiff. Do you think we can get 7th or 8th place? In Su Jihuan's opinion, they should be burning incense and praying that Bei Yunj could get half the written test points by answering the questions carelessly. She didn't want anything else. Bei Yunj, 9th place, Team Chui Changyi, assessment score 59. 3, Elder Crow said loudly. Everyone was in an uproar. This test was too strict. 9th place didn't even have a passing score. At this moment, only Su Jihuan and the other two's expressions changed. They looked disappointed. They didn't even get 9th place. Maybe our ranking is higher. Bei Yunj continued to comfort. But the next moment. 8th place, Sangha Yuanhui team, assessment score 64. Su Jihuan and the other two, was this father the world's toxic healer? Wang Huiying, who was observing this scene from the side, had a hint of ridicule in her eyes. The corners of her mouth unconsciously curled up, and her heart was completely at ease. These idiots were finally out. Wang Huiying raised her head, waiting for Elder Crow to call her name. She didn't want to. When the 2nd place was announced, Old Crow's smile froze. He suspected that his eyes were playing tricks on him. After a while, he said, this year, we didn't get 2nd place, no 2nd place? What does that mean? The contestant couldn't help but ask. 2 first-place finishers. Old Crow couldn't help but become excited after seeing the results of the 2 teams. What? 2 first places. The contestants were in an uproar, and Wang Huiying stood up abruptly, her pupils shrinking. How was this possible? How could there be 2 first places? First place, Wang Huiying's team. Elder Crow looked at everyone and announced the results that everyone wanted to know. Report summary 59, written test 32, total score 91. Everyone's mentality exploded. Damn, 91. Which team is so awesome that they can actually get the same score as Wang Huiying's team? End of chapter. Chapter 1100. It wasn't just the contestants. Even Patriarch Sure was stunned. After so many years, he had never heard of anyone who could tie with Huiying for first place. Elder Crow continued to announce, first place, Bei Yunj's team, report summary 51, written test 40. Total score 91. Instantly, the field exploded. Did I hear wrongly? What's going on? Someone got full marks for the written test? Damn, this team is so fierce. The written test is so difficult, but their team actually got full marks. Wang Huiying's team only got 32 points. I heard that their team didn't know there was a written test at the beginning and forced it in the last hour, in an instant. The field was silent. Their team completed nearly 300 questions in an hour. One had to know that they had been doing it for several days. Even Wang Huiying's team took a full 2 days. Su Jihuan and the others were originally gloomy, but when they heard their team being called, they were all dumbfounded. 91 points. And they actually got full marks for the written test? You got full marks for the written test and the computer test? Su Jihuan turned her head and asked with difficulty. Bei Yunj chewed on the biscuit stick and said slowly, it wasn't difficult. Su Jihuan, Tang Yi, it wasn't that he didn't look at the written test questions later. If it were him, it would probably take him 4 to 5 days to do it alone. And the other teams also completed it together with their members. But Bei Yunj completed nearly 300 questions in less than an hour alone. Our team is actually first. Su Jihuan was stunned at first, then she was extremely excited. I'm not dreaming, am I? Bei Yunj glanced at her and smiled unconsciously. At first, she didn't expect Tang Yi and the others to overturn the finished product and change it. But Wang Huiying clenched her fists, her nails digging into her flesh. She stared at Bei Yunj and the others maliciously. How could this be? Their team didn't deserve to be in the same ranking as hers. After Wang Huiying came back to her senses, she immediately looked at Patriarch Shi, only to find that Patriarch Shi was also staring at Su Jihuan and the others. She gritted her teeth and a ruthless look flashed across her eyes. How's the matter? I asked you to investigate. Patriarch Shi was still a little suspicious. It's true. Also, I found out that there was a problem with their team's information. They found out about the competition an hour before the computer test ended. The tutor braced himself and said, the person who answered the question is a girl who is not even 20 years old. Patriarch Shi was in disbelief. Alone? Even Wang Huiying couldn't finish these questions in 2 days, but someone actually finished it in an hour. He had never heard of a laboratory or a physics research institute producing such a genius. Bei Yunj. I've done a background check, there's no such person in the industry. The tutor had never thought that there would be a day when a person who wasn't even 20 years old could beat Wang Huiying in physics. This world was too crazy. Patriarch Shi took a long time to come back to his senses. What do you mean by unexpected news? The tutor was silent for a long time. It was Miss Wang. She specifically asked someone to inform their team on the last day. She probably wants Su Jihuan to be eliminated early. Patriarch Shi's eyes darkened. The library. You're a family head. Why do you keep coming to the library? Oz frowned. Did you know that there was a student who got full marks in the second round of the written exam this year? Oz glanced at him coldly and mocked, a test subject got full marks and you're here to show off to me? End of chapter. Chapter 1101. It's not Wang Huiying. As soon as Patriarch Shi finished speaking, Oz stopped reading. Isn't it quite scary? There's actually someone who's more talented than a genius in genetic experiments. Patriarch Shi was relishing in it. How can humans create miracles if they want to compete with God? Oz asked sarcastically. Patriarch Shi was speechless. This person must have been trained to change his expression, right? Patriarch Shi continued, what I didn't expect was that the person who scored full marks in the written test was actually from a computer science background. As soon as he finished speaking, Oz lost his grip on the book and dropped it. Patriarch Shi instinctively bent down to pick it up, but when he saw the content clearly, he asked in shock, isn't this what Nanny wrote in her book? Wasn't it burned long ago? When did you recover it? Oz snatched it away. Someone else restored it for me. With that said, his expression was uncertain as he asked slowly, what's the name of the person who scored full marks in the written test? Patriarch Shi, Bei Yunj. The veins on the back of Oz's hand that was holding the book tightly were bulging, and he couldn't suppress his excitement. It was really her. Oz had seen with his own eyes how fast Bei Yunj was doing the questions. That scene made Oz's scalp tingle when he recalled it. If it was an ordinary person, it would be impossible for them to score full marks. I heard that she only took an hour to complete the written test. However, it might be a misunderstanding. Nanny couldn't have. Before Patriarch Shi could finish, Oz interrupted him. It's indeed fake. It took at most 55 minutes. What? Patriarch Shi thought of something else. Wait, How did you know? Oz pointed at the front desk next to him. She's using your lousy computer. If it wasn't for the slow computer, that girl would probably be even faster. You actually know that girl? Patriarch Sure was even more shocked. Yes. I also said that as long as she agreed to be Miss Nanyi's disciple, I would help her get the position of the successor of Confederation 191. Oz didn't feel guilty at all. Patriarch Sure, ? How could you dare to say such a thing in front of me? But she didn't agree. It's very likely that Confederation 191 is getting worse and worse, and she doesn't like it. Oz's eyes were filled with disdain, as if Patriarch Sure was dragging him down. Patriarch Sure's face darkened. You. Anyway, Wang Huiying is not related to you by blood. Does it make a difference to you who inherits it? Oz said expressionlessly. Is Confederate Laboratory 191 something that can be casually handed over to outsiders? Patriarch Sure glared at Oz and said in a deep voice. But a few minutes later. Master Sure asked again, Bei Yunj has a few people in her family. Has she considered settling down in Continent K? When it comes to choosing a successor, I have to carefully consider it. That girl didn't agree to take over. You'd better not leak the news. Oz sneered. What do you mean by taking over? You. Before Patriarch Sure could finish his sentence, Oz added, Oh right, don't let anyone tamper with this competition. This time, the bad girl is in the way. In the living room. The loud and ruthless slap caused the hearts of all the instructors present to tighten. Wang Huiying's head was thrown to one side, and her face was red and swollen. Trash. If Instructor Han didn't bet on the other team's points, do you think you would still be in first place today? Wang Hui's eyes were dark as he threw something at Wang Huiying's face. Take a good look. Do you have the right to get 59 points with your trashy results? End of chapter. Chapter 1102. Wang Huiying picked it up and looked at it. It was a comparison of her and Bei Yunj's results. Although Bei Yunj's team's results were slightly inexperienced in many areas, the key content was completely better than hers. Wang Huiying bit her lip. Her face was burning with pain, but it didn't affect her mood. Su Jihuan doesn't have the ability to beat me. I don't want to hear your explanation. I only want the results. Wang Hui's gaze was malicious. He sneered, Wang Huiying, you can't even compare to this kind of trash team. Do you still expect your name to go down in history? His words fell. Soon, Wang Hui's anger subsided slightly. He said again, Huiying, you disappoint me too much. Wang Huiying gritted her teeth. Su Jihuan, that group of trash, beat me this time just by luck. She took a deep breath, her eyes filled with stubbornness and cold pride. I underestimated them. Wang Huiying, this is the last time. You know what it means to be first this time. With that, Wang Hui left with a flick of his sleeves. When Xing Qi and the others arrived, they only saw Wang Huiying's eyes red and one side of her cheek red and swollen. Huiying, what's wrong? Wang Huiying didn't speak. She just stood up slowly, her tone was cold and sarcastic. This time, I'm going to crush that group of trash Su Jihuan into the mud. Xing Qi and the others inexplicably didn't dare to look at Wang Huiying. This was the first time they saw Wang Huiying's gloomy face. The library. Bei Yunj had just reached the 6th floor when she was suddenly stopped by someone. Girl. Bei Yunj turned and saw Oz looking at her coldly. This gloomy image was very much like a big villain who killed people like flies. But in the next moment, Oz just threw a cushion to her. Don't dirty the cushion. Bei Yunj's lips curved. Thank you, old master. Hearing this, Oz didn't leave like before. Instead, he was silent for a moment and said, You won. I can give you the information. But you really don't want to be the successor of 191? Even if 191 lost, there's still no research institute that can compare to 191. Bei Yunj was unmoved. Seeing this, Oz's eyebrows twitched and he threw another book at her. Bai Yunj flipped through the contents. This was even more valuable than the scientific data and information left behind by Shernani. The author's name was J.H. Do you like this guy's book? Oz asked tentatively. Bai Yunj's eyebrows twitched. He didn't expect Confederation 191 to have such a high standard of books. Oz knew Bai Yunj would like it. After all, very few people knew that the number one genius of Confederation 191 wasn't Shernani, but this foreign student. You sold it to me? Bai Yunj asked. Oz almost interrupted this guy's train of thought. If you get first place in the competition, I will give you all of this person's books. Bai Yunj's eyes flickered with a dark light. A moment later, she returned the book to Oz. I'm sorry. I promised my master that I wouldn't join Confederation 191. Oz also began to hate this girl's cleverness. He was even angered by her cerebral palsy master to the point that his heart ached. Which dog was this girl's master? He actually didn't let his disciple join Confederation 191. The finals were coming. After Su Jihuan came back from drawing lots, Tang Yi and the others looked at the theme and report order and almost stopped breathing. There were a total of 10 themes and 9 teams to choose from. Chapter 1103. Brother Yi, I think I've used up all my bad luck for a year. Tang Yi was speechless. Congratulations. The corners of Du Chaoye's mouth twitched. Why don't we get Bai Yunj to do it? In the previous round, Wang Huiying's team probably didn't use their full strength. But now that the same theme was presented, wasn't this giving Wang Huiying and the rest a chance to torture them? But I've already asked Gu-er to sleep. She didn't seem to have rested yesterday. Su Jihuan said weakly. Let's do it. We can't leave everything to our companions. After Tang Yi finished speaking, a lazy laugh suddenly rang out behind him. But we're a team too. Tang Yi and the rest looked over instinctively. Su Jihuan jumped for joy. Yunj. Bai Yunj slowly placed the paper bag on the table. I brought you food. Thank you, Father Pei. Su Jihuan and Du Chaoye had already reached out to snatch it. What theme did you draw? Bai Yunj asked. After Tang Yi briefly explained, he was silent for a moment. Why don't you let us do it first this time? When it's about time, you can help us modify it. Bai Yunj thought for a moment. Okay. For a few days. Tang Yi and the rest were still diligently analyzing the data, and tutors often came to guide them. However, Tang Yi was careful and did not tell the tutor everything about the team's report. Soon. The tutor, who had just left Tang Ye's place, went to Wang Huiying's laboratory. Elder Ma, how's their progress? Wang Huiying asked. Elder Ma shook his head. That kid Tang Yi is very meticulous. He didn't tell me their content. Wang Huiying's eyes darkened and her expression was mocking. It's alright, Elder Ma. You can go back. Okay, Mississippi. After Elder Ma left, Wang Huiying suddenly said, Tang Fengyin, Tang Yi is from your Tang family, right? Is your Tang family planning to go against our Shi family? Tang Fengyin's usual gentle smile froze. Miss Wang, he's just an illegitimate son of a branch family. But he's still a member of your Tang family. Wang Huiying observed the experiment as she recorded the data. She only smiled generously. I still hope that you can do it. Otherwise, my father will doubt the sincerity of the Tang family's alliance. Tang Fengyin was silent. I understand, Miss Wang. A few days before the finals. The rain continued to fall. Bai Yunj had just thrown the umbrella into the bucket and was about to enter the library when someone called her from behind. Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows. Miss Wang seems to be quite free. Wang Huiying held the umbrella and chuckled in the rain. Miss Pei, I'm here to make a deal with you. As long as you can destroy Su Jihuan's report, I can let you enter Confederation 191 and get benefits that you can't even imagine. When Bei Yunj heard this, she curled her lips with great interest. Why? Can't the Su family afford me this? Wang Huiying's smile faded, and her eyes became gloomy. Bei Yunj, even if you participate in the competition, you won't be able to beat me. Then what is Miss Wang afraid of? Bei Yunj smiled unhurriedly. Wang Huiying clenched her fists and sneered at Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj, you'll regret this. With that, Wang Huiying left. Bei Yunj was deep in thought. Before entering the library, she reminded Tang Yi and the others to protect the information and their own safety. But what was hard to believe was that Wang Huiying dared to make a move outside the laboratory building one day before the finals. Chapter 1104. At the hospital. Bei Yunj arrived very quickly, but when the elevator bell rang, he didn't expect Suyu to come out of the opposite elevator. His hair was still messy. Bei Yunj didn't look at him anymore. He had just left when Suyu followed closely behind. However, what Suyu didn't expect was that when he saw Su Jihuan crying until her eyes were red, he subconsciously opened his hand. However, what he expected was not Su Jihuan throwing herself into his arms like before. Instead, Su Jihuan didn't even look at him. She ran over and hugged Bei Yunj. Yunj, brother, you lost a lot of blood. Su Jihuan's tears fell. Bei Yunj instinctively wanted to push her away, but seeing that Su Jihuan was crying sadly, he could only move his eyelids and slowly take out a tissue to wipe her tears. Old Du, what's wrong with Tang Yi? Du Chaoye said, the doctor said that he lost too much blood and his body is covered in injuries. He might have to lie in bed for a few months. It must be Wang Huiying and the rest. Without anyone's instructions, who can enter Confederation 191? Su Jihuan gritted her teeth in anger. Bei Yunj was silent for a moment. Old Du, go to the laboratory and get the information first. Jihuan and I will guard here. Okay. Du Chaoye was actually a little worried about the competition. After all, Tang Yi was the one who did the final work. After Du Chaoye left. Only then did Su Jihuan realize that Suyu was here. Why are you here? Su Jihuan was puzzled from the bottom of her heart. Suyu didn't expect that he had sent Su Jihuan to the Confederation 191 training camp because he wanted Su Jihuan to stop clinging to him for a few days. But now, Su Jihuan seemed to have changed into a different person. She treated him as if he didn't exist and even questioned him like this. I heard that you were in the hospital. Suyu pursed his lips and couldn't help but look at Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow at him. Suyu was speechless. Yet, this person had someone protecting her. Then you can go back. I have to wait for Brother Yi to wake up. Su Jihuan was still a little overwhelmed. Her mind was filled with Tang Ye's blood. Suyu was inexplicably frustrated. After glancing at Su Jihuan, he said coldly, up. With that said, Suyu left. Only Bei Yunj looked at his back with interest. What kind of attitude is that? I'm not afraid that he'll be unhappy if he waits for too long. Just as Su Jihuan finished speaking, Du Chaoye called. He told them that all the data in the laboratory had been destroyed. As for the backup in his hands, he probably wouldn't be able to finish editing it in one night. Hearing this, Su Jihuan was so angry that her entire body was trembling. She wanted to fight Wang Huiying to the death. Is Wang Huiying sick? A cold look flashed across Bei Yunj's beautiful eyes, and she let out a long laugh. However, it was still hair-raising. When Du Chaoye came back, Bei Yunj asked him to bring her computer. Dawn. Bei Yunj glanced at the sleepy Du Chaoye and Su Jihuan and turned on her computer again. Inside the folder was the content she had written some time ago. Coincidentally, it was also the theme of the competition. After a quick glance, she licked her lips and sneered softly. Then, she slowly deleted the last signature. She signed it again, Group 9, Bei Yunj team. The next day. It was Bei Yunj's first time sleeping in the hospital corridor. Her eyes were filled with impatience and irritation, especially after the scream. But Su Jihuan didn't know at all. I actually fell asleep. I haven't finished editing the manuscript yet. How did I fall asleep? The nurse next to them looked at the three good-looking people and felt very strange. There's still an empty ward. Why are you sleeping on the bench? The young ladies and young masters. Chapter 1105. None of them had any common sense. Brother Yi doesn't seem to be awake yet. Su Jihuan leaned against the door of the intensive care unit. After watching for a while, her eyes dimmed. Tang Yi will be fine. Let's think about the competition first. Du Chaoye glanced at Tang Yi in the ward and massaged his temples. Why don't I give a speech? After all, Bei Yunj had not participated in the theme this time. Du Chaoye did not plan to let a girl like Su Jihuan bear such a responsibility. Ah. But you don't know the entire framework. Su Jihuan bit her lip. Why don't, I'll go. Suddenly, a voice sounded from the side, attracting Su Jihuan and Du Chaoye's attention. Yunj, what's in there? Su Jihuan looked at her USB flash drive. She remembered that Bei Yunj did not copy their documents. I wrote it last month for fun and happened to run into the topic. Bei Yunj had already copied the information into the USB flash drive. His index finger twirled the USB flash drive string lazily, his posture casual. Su Jihuan was speechless. She really didn't dare to believe his careless appearance. Daddy Pei, are you sure you want to use your own? Su Jihuan held Bei Yunj's hand tightly and wanted to struggle. I can't remember your content either. Pei Yunj said slowly without blushing or skipping a beat. At the venue of the finals. What no one expected was that among the judges today, the Shi family's head and the successor of 191, Wang Hui, would actually be there. However, Wang Hui's expression did not look too good. It was obvious that he did not expect the Shi family's head to be a judge. However, at this moment, what was more eye-catching was that Bei Yunj and the other two were late. In the venue, only Wang Huiying's eyes were filled with mockery as she looked at the three late people. She thought that these three people would not dare to come. However, it was even better that they were here. Let the competition begin. With that said, the host invited the first team to present their results. Under the Shi family's head scrutiny, almost none of the other judges dared to give a high score. This made the scalps of the others turn numb. After a few contestants, no one got a high score. They all hovered between 70 and 80 points. Until Wang Huiying appeared. Su Jihuan and Du Chaoye looked at the PowerPoint behind Wang Huiying and felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. She kept feeling that there were a few core points that were especially similar to what Tang Yi had written. However, not long after, the contents of the next slide made Su Jihuan and Du Chaoye's faces turn black. This slide was their team's PowerPoint, and Wang Huiying and the others had used it exactly as it was. What does Wang Huiying mean? Plagiarizing our content in broad daylight? Su Jihuan's anger reached its peak. At this moment, Wang Huiying smiled at Bei Yunj and the others. She obviously knew that Bei Yunj and the others had no evidence. And in Confederate 191, who would dare to touch her? Bei Yunj glanced at him unhurriedly, not saying a word the whole time. Until Wang Huiying finished. The judges gave him the highest score. 84. Next, Bei Yunj's team. Let's welcome Tang Yi to the stage. As soon as the host finished speaking, Bei Yunj stood up and said, I'm sorry. My partner can't come to the competition, so I'll take her place at the last minute. Aren't you taking our competition too seriously? Wang Hui suddenly said sternly. Who knew? Bei Yunj glanced at him and sneered. Does Mr. Wang need to shout at me for the Shi family's competition? As soon as he finished speaking, the scene froze for a long time. This was the first person who dared to point out Wang Hui's weakness. He was a ruthless person. P.S. I don't have any ideas, so I wrote a little slowly. I'll write more today. I'll continue tonight. Chapter 1106. Only Su Jihuan suspected that Bei Yunj had just woken up and wasn't in a good mood, but as expected, Wang Hui's face darkened completely. However, Bei Yunj's tone was casual and her terrifying aura was hard to ignore. Her slender and beautiful hands slowly brushed through her long, curly black hair. She smiled calmly, but there was no warmth in her voice. Okay, it's not time to settle the score yet. Wang Hui was about to say something when he suddenly met Bei Yunj's curved eyes. Her beautiful eyes seemed to be smiling but not smiling, cold and terrifying. It made people shudder. Wang Hui's heart inexplicably skipped a beat. He was actually intimidated by this little girl. Patriarch Shi was also very surprised when he saw this scene. He had only seen Bei Yunj briefly before and only thought that this little girl was too eye-catching. But now, he realized that she controlled the entire scene. Bei Yunj didn't look at the slides behind her. She just licked her lips and said in a lazy voice, "Hello everyone, I'm Bei Yunj. This report will be done by me and 3 other team members." As soon as she finished speaking, the slides behind Bei Yunj began to show the main topic. When the others saw the contents of the slides behind Bei Yunj, their expressions changed. The 10th topic was undoubtedly the most difficult of the 10 topics. Even Wang Huiying was very cautious in order to win this competition. She didn't dare to take the risk of choosing a deeper topic. However, the slides behind Bei Yunj started with a deeper topic. It was on a completely different level from the other contestants. If they were told that Bei Yunj's report was written by the top researchers of Confederation 191, they would probably believe it. What kind of monsters were the members of this team? Crouching tigers and hidden dragons? Not only did the contestants have a mental breakdown, but even the judges' faces stiffened after hearing Bei Yunj's smooth speech. Was she here to participate in the training camp competition? This level of content was already not something they could comment on. For some reason, they felt like they had offended a big shot in the industry. The judges' scalps went numb and they didn't dare to give this score. Du Chaoye and Su Jihuan were also stunned. Su Jihuan's breathing stagnated. She wrote this for fun. Du Chaoye, meanwhile, the onlookers who weren't afraid of blowing up the matter were still discussing. F***CK, what kind of big shot is this Group 9 doing? Slapping the opposing genius group's face round after round? If I were Wang Huiying, I would be so angry that I would vomit blood. One of them, a fan of Bei Yunj, couldn't help but feel his blood boil. Master Pei, how is this a slap in the face? This is clearly a strafing shot. Other than her, no one else survived, at this very moment. As expected, Wang Huiying's face was ashen, and the hatred in her eyes was almost surging out. Where did Bei Yunj's report come from? Or was Bei Yunj playing with her on purpose? Huiying, what should we do? Tang Fengyin's face was also pale, and he was already regretting it. If he hadn't found someone to injure Tang Yi, he wouldn't have let Bei Yunj go on stage. Wang Huiying pursed her lips and turned her head to see the head of the Shi family looking at Bei Yunj with sparkling eyes. He couldn't suppress his excitement. For some reason, she panicked and had a bad feeling. My report ends here. Thank you, everyone. As soon as Bei Yunj finished speaking, the judges felt uncomfortable no matter how they sat. They didn't know how to give this score. P.S. I can't take it anymore. I'm too sleepy. I'll wake up early tomorrow to finish these 3 chapters. Good night, everyone. End of chapter. Chapter 1107. The judges stared at each other in a deadlock. They were all egging each other on to be the first to give Bei Yunj a score. At this moment, Master Shi had just calmed down. He couldn't help but frown and ask, "What are you all waiting for?" After a long while, one of the judges said helplessly, "Master Shi, this score, how are we going to give her a score?" Someone immediately answered, "Actually, I heard about this topic at the Our Nation's Physics Research Institute last time. But in terms of the content of the report, it's not as deep and accurate as this contestant." There were many physicists in our nation. They were even more skilled than the core members of Confederation 191. To be able to suppress the report of our nation's top physics research institute, this score was not something they could give her. Master Shi was speechless. No one had expected this scene. A rookie training camp could actually have such a godly contestant, soon. After the judges finished their discussion, everyone saw Master Shi walk in front of Bai Yunj. Miss Pei's talent is outstanding. She's even more outstanding than my most outstanding daughter. Instantly, the contestants were in an uproar. Wasn't Master Shi talking about Shi Nani? Many people subconsciously looked at Wang Huiying. After all, Wang Huiying had been calling herself Little Shi Nani for so many years, but Master Shi said this in front of so many people. Wasn't this a slap to Wang Huiying's face? Sure enough, Wang Huiying's face was as black as a pot. Clan head Shi, why didn't you report your points? Only Su Jihuan asked with concern. Master Shi laughed and said again, the judges here probably don't have the ability to give Miss Pei a score like this. But first place is undeserved, ashamed. Suddenly, Wang Hui's gloomy voice interrupted Master Shi's words. If Miss Pei is this good, why would she participate in this kind of competition? Wang Hui sneered. I have reason to suspect that Bai Yunj is openly cheating. Wang Hui. Master Shi's expression changed. He didn't expect Wang Hui to be so impatient. But Wang Hui continued in a gloomy tone, Dad, this person's motive is unclear. We should remove her name from the list and kick her out of this competition. Wang Hui had been working under family head Shi for a long time, so he could more or less guess what family head Shi's motive was. Comparing Shi Nani to Bai Yunj, it was very likely that he wanted to let Bai Yunj, an outsider, take away his position. He would never allow such a thing to happen. Hurry up and call someone over. Chase this person out. Wang Hui said coldly. But in the next moment, Oz's voice sounded coldly, drive them out. What right do you have to make decisions for Confederation 191? When Wang Hui saw Oz walking over, he sneered, so it's you. You're trying to trip me up behind my back. Oz sneered, you're just someone who eats soft rice, do you still need me to worry about you? I'm here today because this girl is the successor that I've chosen for Miss Nan Yi. In your dreams. Wang Hui was furious, but then he sneered, Oz, I really didn't expect you to cheat with other players in order to pull me down. But you have to remember that I gave you face. But since you still don't understand who's in charge here, then I'll chase you and Bai Yunj out today. Hearing this, before Wang Huiying had time to sneer, a voice suddenly sounded from outside the door. End of chapter. Chapter 1108. Who's tired of living now? How dare you touch my disciple? Everyone turned around and suddenly saw an old man in a neat suit. Although his expression was calm, there was a majestic look in his eyes. Bai Yunj was quite surprised. He didn't expect Nancy to come here. Who is this old man? The contestants below the stage were all discussing. No one knew him. But the old members of Confederation 191 were shocked. Even their voices were filled with disbelief. Teacher Nancy, it's Mr. Nancy. Most of the contestants were still young and didn't know what the word Nancy meant in the scientific research circle. But Confederation 191 had witnessed with their own eyes how many achievements Nancy had left in this era. At this moment, Oz's hoarse voice was even more unsettled. His expression was distorted. Bai Yunj is your disciple? Nancy turned and looked at Oz for a while before recognizing him. Yes, you're Oz? He didn't know when Oz's face was disfigured. And the way Oz and Patriarch Shi looked at Nancy was as if they couldn't wait to fight him on the spot. They were so angry that their teeth itched. This dog was really shameless. He actually dared to come to Confederation 191. Are you worthy of stepping into our Confederation 191? Patriarch Shi's tone was angry. When Nancy heard this, he immediately sneered and retorted, Patriarch Shi loves his son-in-law better than his daughter. Can't wait to fight for his son-in-law. You're slandering me. Patriarch Sure was so angry that he almost fainted. He pointed at Nancy and gritted his teeth. You shameless thing. You've done so much evil, yet you're still blaming me. Bei Yunj looked at this scene and couldn't help but twitch his eyelids. Master. As soon as he finished speaking, Nancy didn't continue to scold Patriarch Sure. Bei Yunj thought for a moment and said slowly, Patriarch Sure, I understand that you have grudges with the previous generation. If you really hate my master that much, you can remove me from this first place. I also hope that 191, as the largest laboratory in Continent K, will treat my companions fairly. Hearing this, Su Jihuan and the other two couldn't help but look at Bei Yunj. If it weren't for Bei Yunj, how could they have gotten first place? But before they could say anything, Oz said, Little girl, the Confederacy 191 only has a problem with him. They have no problem with you. Nancy slowly turned to look at Bei Yunj. Clearly, he didn't understand why the old bastards of Confederate 191 had such a different attitude towards his disciple. However, suddenly, Wang Hui's gloomy voice rang out. No wonder Bei Yunj's team was able to submit such a report. It seems that even after so many years, Mr. Nancy still can't forget Confederate 191. Do you think everyone is like you, someone who likes to live off women? Nancy sneered. She was merciless in attacking her enemy. As expected, Wang Hui's face darkened. After all, with such a peerless master like me, it's hard for my disciple to fail even if he doesn't want to. Nancy was still sighing with emotion, but her heart was blooming with joy. Who would have thought that his disciple would be able to slap Wang Hui's face? Bei Yunj, but in the next moment. However, Patriarch Sure hurriedly ignored him and walked to Bei Yunj's side. Yunj, why don't you consider removing your master-disciple relationship with that old thing? Our Confederacy 191 has high hopes for you. Patriarch Sure was just short of saying, What do you think of my position? Bei Yunj was speechless. Sure Hongsen, what do you mean? Are you trying to steal my disciple in front of me? Nancy said with a shocked and angry expression. End of chapter. Chapter 1109. The head of the Sure family couldn't hold back his anger. Nancy, so what if I poached your disciple? You even poached my daughter and you still have the cheek to criticize me? Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. When the head of the Sure family thought of his daughter, he couldn't help but tear up. Do you think it's easy for me? I raised Yi all by myself. Originally, I just wanted to find someone worthy of her trust, but what about you? Eloping with her? Now that Yi is gone, I just want to find her a disciple to take over. How am I wrong? Hearing this, Nancy paused. He didn't expect that the head of the Sure family wanted to keep Bei Yunj to find a successor for Sure Nani, after a short silence. Nancy was a little helpless. This matter still depends on what Gu thinks. Oz glanced at Nancy coldly and said in a sarcastic tone, You taught her well. You didn't let the little girl join Confederation 191. I've been persuading her all this time, but she refused to be Miss Nani's disciple. Nancy, he didn't expect this either. After all, Bei Yunj didn't even mention it to him. He could not imagine how tempting the Confederation 191 would be to all of them. But he didn't expect that Bei Yunj would even reject the position of successor. Gu, if you want, I won't stop you. Nancy was touched and immediately said. Unexpectedly, Bei Yunj glanced at him slowly and chuckled softly. No need, Master. Master, I have no choice but to take over your territory. Nancy's emotions dissipated instantly. The head of the Sure family, how did Nancy trick this girl to become his disciple back then? At this moment, Wang Hui and Wang Huiying's eyes had completely darkened. Soon, one of Wang Hui's men said, Master, but our successor has always been Mr. Wang Hui. I only let him temporarily manage the 191 successor, but I never promised him that he would definitely inherit this position. These words made Wang Hui's eyes even colder. So I've worked hard for Confederation 191 for so many years, but the head of the family is not moved at all? Patriarch Shi said calmly, Wang Hui, I've said it before. I hope that this position can be inherited by a capable person. Painted Oriole is indeed capable. I can let her continue to stay in Confederate 191. However, she's not suitable for the position of successor in the future, and neither are you. These words made Wang Hui even angrier. He sneered, Good. Good. Patriarch Shi was indeed bold. But do you really think that Confederation 191 can survive without me? After Wang Hui said this specious sentence, he turned around and left angrily. Wang Huiying looked at Bai Yunj with a venomous look in her eyes. She had never expected that Bai Yunj would mess up the plan her father had set up for so many years. After the event ended, Master Shi, for Wang Hui to be able to control the operations of Confederation 191 for so many years, I'm afraid the people behind him are not to be trifled with. Oz suddenly said. How could I not know? Patriarch Shi smiled and said, But I always dream of Nanny crying to me, saying that she doesn't want to marry Wang Hui and doesn't want to have anything to do with him. Even if something happens, I'll take responsibility for that little girl. As long as she's willing to inherit Nanyi's position. Oz didn't say anything. Outside the building, Bai Yunj was still listening to Nancy's incessant nagging about the benefits of being the successor of Confederation 191 until she caught a glimpse of someone not far away. Her eyes curved. Master, we'll talk about other things later. I'll go back first. Wait, you. Before Nancy could finish speaking, he saw Bai Yunj running towards the man not far away. Although he was far away, Nancy could still vaguely see that the man was handsome. He was wearing a black and gray woolen coat and had a noble temperament. Only Bai Yunj ran closer and saw that the man's short black hair was stained with snow. His expression was light, but his light-colored eyes were staring straight at her. Bai Yunj's heart skipped a beat. Suddenly, she only heard the man chuckle. Bai Yunj thought that her thoughts had been seen through and her tone was not very good. What are you laughing at? It's quite good. The man naturally held the little girl's hand. His magnetic and deep voice had a smile that made people blush and their hearts race. He said lazily, It seems that there are no male classmates in the training camp who are better looking than me. Bai Yunj? After not seeing him for so long, this D*MN man's first words were flirtatious. After getting into the car, Bai Yunj did not look at Hushidu. But after a while, Bai Yunj felt that something was wrong with this route. She asked, Where are we going? The man said unhurriedly, Luosie's place. Bai Yunj, you don't want to go? Just help me test a new machine, okay, Yunyun? The man's deep voice was extremely seductive, but his hand gently pinched her palm and rubbed it gently, making her heart itch. They walked into Luosie's laboratory. Luosia also had a sour expression on his face, but he did not expect to see Bai Yunj's expression when he looked up. This person was even better at showing expressions than him. Luosia sneered and could not help but glance at Hushidu. How did Bai Yunj look like there was something wrong with him? Miss Pei has been sent here by Master Du time and time again. Could there really be a problem? Bai Yunj heard Luosia's probing and looked up at him. But in the next moment, Luosia mocked, If your heart is really twisted and you like to find trouble with others, this is an education problem. I can't help you. Bai Yunj sneered. Dr. Luo is still single and likes to go around acknowledging relatives and educating them. If you really have some hidden illness, why don't you go see a doctor? Instantly, Luosia's face darkened. What did Bai Yunj mean? Did she say that he had a problem in that area? Outside the door, Zhou Yu walked to Hushidu's side and reported about Confederation 191. Hushidu raised his eyebrows. He did not expect Shi Hongsen to be willing to pass his position to Bai Yunj. Zhou Yu glanced at Hushidu and said, Master Du, this Wang Hui is also valuable to us. After all, Wang Hui was also a chess piece that Hushidu had set up in Confederation 191. Therefore, when Wang Hui contacted Zhou Yu through someone and hoped that Zhou Yu could help him, Zhou Yu hesitated. Zhou Yu, you've gone overboard. The man's voice was indifferent, but there was no warmth. Zhou Yu wanted to say something but hesitated. However, when he saw Huashidu's indifferent gaze, Zhou Yu felt as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over him. Zhou Yu quickly lowered his head and admitted his mistake. Yes. Huashidu only glanced at him casually. Not long after, the corners of his lips suddenly curled up. He reached out and picked up the red scarf that Bei Yunj had placed at the side. He said casually, "Clean up the people from Confederation 191. Don't cause trouble for my girl." Zhou Yu. Yes. However. Chapter 11:10. Mr. Wang, will that person help us? Wang Hui's men started to feel uneasy. Hearing this, Wang Hui gritted his teeth and sneered. Definitely. But even if he doesn't, I have a way to let that little girl know what's good for her. Had he spent so many years in Confederation 191 for nothing? Shi Hongsun was really ridiculous. He actually thought that a little girl could replace his position. In the laboratory. Boss, this girl looks very normal. Is there really a problem? The experimenter in the observation room asked softly. Luo Xie sneered. Is there a problem? Master Du treats her like a treasure. What problem can there be? If there was a problem with Bei Yunj, it was because Huashidu had spoiled her. Luo Xie didn't care. But in the next moment, Luo Xie suddenly heard a loud noise in the laboratory. When he reacted, his eyelids twitched and he immediately ran over to Bei Yunj. But he saw Bei Yunj standing by the side with a normal expression. He didn't notice the coldness in Bei Yunj's eyes that had not completely disappeared. And there was a crack on the surface of the latest machine he bought. Luo Xie's expression also cracked. I'm sorry, Dr. Luo. I accidentally bumped into it. Bei Yunj's voice sounded unhurriedly. Luo Xie even had the thought of strangling Bei Yunj to death. Did she know how much money he had spent to buy this machine? Luo Xie's expression kept changing. The observer beside him immediately whispered to Bei Yunj, Miss Pei, come out quickly. Boss's heart is aching. Bei Yunj was speechless. Not long after, Bei Yunj left with the observer. She asked casually, is this machine very expensive? It's not too expensive. Boss only got this machine because he asked for favors. Also. The observer looked around and immediately said to her sneakily, my boss bought this machine specially for the goddess. Goddess? Bei Yunj's first thought was Lai Yunqing. Yes. She's the one who nominated the Busaka. Our boss has been single for so many years just to have a vigorous relationship with her. The researcher said excitedly. Bei Yunj felt a chill run down her spine. The next moment. The man's voice sounded indifferently. Yun. Inexplicably, Bei Yunj seemed to sense the coldness in the man's voice. But when she came back to her senses, Bei Yunj felt that she was overthinking. Brother. Bei Yunj walked up to the man. However, before Huashidu could speak, Luo Xie walked over quickly and even asked his laboratory staff to leave the hall. Luo Xie looked at Bei Yunj silently and his attitude changed. Miss Pei, I hope you can accept my face-to-face examination. Luo Xie couldn't help but look at Bei Yunj when he thought of the data he had just seen on the machine. Initially, Luo Xie had thought that Huashidu was making a fuss over nothing. What could have happened to Bei Yunj? But now, he realized that Huashidu's motive for returning to Continent K was very likely to be for Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj glanced at Luo Xie expressionlessly, but she kept suppressing the dark thoughts in her heart. The atmosphere suddenly turned silent. Huashidu lowered his eyes and looked at her. After a while, Bei Yunj heard the man suddenly speak. Forget it if you don't want to see it. Luo Xie instinctively looked up at him. Master Du. Luo Xie was getting more and more confused by Huashidu's thoughts. End of chapter. Chapter 11:11. Luo Xie, continue with your work. With that said, Huashidu left with Bei Yunj. However, in the car, Huashidu received a message from Luo Xia and the data recorded by the machine. Luo Xia suggested that he bring her to his laboratory again to investigate the cause of Bei Yunji's illness. Huashidu's eyes were dark. Not long after, he put his phone back into his pocket. In the blink of an eye, Huashidu saw Bei Yunji looking at him. The machine just now affected brain activity through brainwaves. Bei Yunji's emotions were more or less affected. For a moment, she could not get rid of the dark thoughts in her mind. Bei Yunji had just calmed down and was still thinking about how to speak to Huashidu. However, she did not expect to hear the man's deep and magnetic voice. "We're returning to Yunqing in 2 days." Bei Yunji's long eyelashes fluttered slightly and she quickly licked her red lips. After a while, she asked, "Aren't you going to continue the examination?" With that said, Bei Yunji did not hear Huashidu speak and looked up instinctively. However, she did not expect the man to stare straight at her. The corners of his upturned eyes were charming and he chuckled in a low voice. It was as if he was making a serious promise to her. He said slowly, "Bei Yunji, we still have a long time in the future." Bei Yunji's heart thumped unnaturally and she looked away hurriedly. However, the man's lips curled up. Back at the manor, Bei Yunji watched as Zhou Yu and Sing Su watered the flowers not far away and called Nance. "Other than Luo Xia, do I have any other choice?" Nance did not expect Bei Yunji to take the initiative to talk to him about this one day. He snorted. "You still know that I'm your master. I thought you were going to look for Zhong Xinglin again." Nance quickly got to the point. "Yunji, Luo Xia is your most suitable choice now." Bei Yunji was speechless. Now, Bei Yunji's scalp turned numb at the thought of what the experimenter had said about a romantic relationship between an older woman and a younger man. "Change it." Bei Yunji was silent for a moment. "Besides, I don't want anyone to know about it for the time being." "Do you not want others to know, or do you not want your brother to know?" Nancy smiled. Bei Yunji, other than Huashidu, there was no one else who said that. Nance knew that Huashidu's identity was not simple. He had also heard Zhong Xinglin mention Huashidu before. Although he didn't know much about this young man, there was one thing he was sure of. Perhaps even Bei Yunji herself didn't know what this man thought of her. Thinking of this, Nancy could not help but ask, why can't you figure out such a simple question?" After a while, only then did Nancy hear her clear and melodious voice ring out. "Master, it's not like I can figure out everything." Nancy was stunned. After he came back to his senses, he remembered that Bei Yunji was only 19 or 20 years old. However, the more he interacted with Bei Yunji, the higher his expectations for her. It was easy for people to fall into a fallacy with such a genius. She had to be more knowledgeable than everyone else. Suddenly, Bei Yunji's voice interrupted his thoughts. She smiled lazily. "Master, I can inherit Madam's Confederation 191, but there's a score that I haven't settled yet." "What score?" "Confederation 191. No one understood why a group of people would suddenly appear. When they saw Wang Hui, they suddenly attacked him and beat him up until he couldn't even get up. Half a day later, Wang Huiying had just rushed to the hospital when she didn't expect to be slapped by Wang Hui out of nowhere. P.S. There are 2 more updates. If nothing goes wrong, there should be a mini update soon. End of this chapter. Chapter 11-12. Seeing this scene, a woman who looked similar to Wang Huiying hurriedly supported Wang Huiying. "Why did you hit your child? Your daughter came to the hospital to see you out of kindness." Shi Ruzhen's heart ached. "You should ask her. She can't even compete with Bei Yunji. Isn't it embarrassing?" Wang Hui's long-suppressed anger finally exploded. He pointed at Wang Huiying and scolded her. Wang Huiying covered her face with her hands. Her hair covered half of her face. After a long time, she said gloomily, "Those people today must be Bei Yunji's men." Wang Hui's face darkened. He thought about how he was beaten up in Confederation 191 and his tone became even worse. How did you know? I asked the Tang family to teach the illegitimate son of the Tang family a lesson. He's her teammate. Wang Huiying's hatred for Bai Yunj grew stronger. Bai Yunj was really arrogant. She actually hit her father. Wang Huiying, you, Wang Hui's eyes darkened. He sneered angrily. I didn't expect you to become so useless after so many years. Wang Huiying was his most successful genetic experiment subject. How could she be defeated by an ordinary person? Wang Huiying seemed to have been provoked. Her voice was sharp and she sneered. Useless? Father, don't forget that if it weren't for me, grandfather wouldn't have considered letting you inherit the laboratory. But Wang Hui was even more furious when he heard this. How dare you talk back to me? Shi Ruzhen immediately protected her daughter. Huiying didn't mean to provoke you. Don't treat your daughter like this, I treat her like this. How much effort did I put in to nurture her? Look at the result. She can't even compete with a wild girl who came out of nowhere. Now, Shi Hongsen wants to pass his position to a wild girl. Wang Huiying's expression became even more twisted when she heard this. Brother Hui, I have a solution. Shi Ruzhen said immediately. Wang Hui frowned. What solution? Old Mr. Dongxi. Shi Ruzhen looked at Wang Huiying's red and swollen face, and a trace of heartache flashed across her eyes. Soon, she said, Elder Dong is father's teacher and the person with the most authority in Confederation 191. Father has always respected him. Therefore, as long as Elder Dong opposes father, there is still room for negotiation. Shi Ruzhen continued, Elder Dong hasn't asked about anything in the laboratory in the past few years, but he has always favored Huiying. After listening, Wang Hui's complexion finally returned to normal, but Wang Huiying's gaze was malicious. This time, she would not let Bai Yunj off the hook. The college entrance examination was approaching and Bai Yunj had been receiving news from Qin Luyan and the other two. He was even pulled into a group chat, and the three of them took turns sharing the poisonous chicken soup that they had gotten from God knows where. Little clever trick that exploded in the college entrance examination circle. Her parents actually raised her to be the city's top scorer. Tens of thousands of parents who took the college entrance examination express regret that they did not buy these for their children. You're only 3 minutes away from the college entrance examination dark horse. In fact, Bai Yunj even saw by chance that Qin Yu had retracted an article. Parents did all this to raise the confidence of children with poor results for the college entrance examination. The corners of Bai Yunj's lips twitched. Then, he left the group chat expressionlessly. Suddenly. What's going on? I heard that you rubbed Wang Huiying. Chapter 11-13. Bai Yunj threw her phone on the table and said casually, Do you have a problem with that? Si Qingyan was speechless. It had been a few months since they last met, but this person's temper had not decreased. No problem. However, I've long heard that Wang Huiying used you as a stepping stone back then. Everyone said that only she could surpass you. Si Qingyan raised an eyebrow, gloating indescribably. Wang Huiying probably wouldn't have thought that she was the one being hammered. Did you come to Continent K just to gossip? Bai Yunj asked slowly. What nonsense are you talking about? It's all because old Master Zhong couldn't bear to use his ultimate move and let you compete with Lai Yunqing, so he called me here. Bai Yunj asked excitedly, You won? Si Qingyan did not deny it. Of course. After all, Si Qingyan had become a professor at Yunqing University at such a young age. Of course, his talent was not bad. Besides, with Bai Yunj giving him endless pressure, Si Qingyan had not dared to rest for the past year. After dinner, Bai Yunj and Si Qingyan had just gone downstairs when they unexpectedly encountered a robbery in the mall. The sound of a gunshot caused a commotion on the field. Continent K was not like Country A. Even the well-guarded wealthy district would occasionally have bandits enter. Not to mention the chaotic city. Si Qingyan almost cursed. He had just won the competition and wanted to walk around Continent K, but he did not expect to encounter such a thing on the same day. Those who don't want to die, squat down. The man with the weapon was still holding a boy. With that said, the citizens who had yet to escape did not dare to move. Even though such things often happened in this city, no one could avoid the fear of death. Yunj, let's go upstairs first. Si Qingyan was about to bring Bei Yunj upstairs and call the police, but in the next second, Bei Yunj walked downstairs. Yunj, before Si Qingyan could pull her back, Bei Yunj's eyes swept over the three people with guns. Do you want a hostage? What do you think of me? Bei Yunj's words angered the criminal gang. Do you have a death wish? Bei Yunj slowly took off her watch and threw it accurately to the side of the clear pool. She raised an eyebrow and was indescribably arrogant. Sir, that watch is worth the value of everyone here. Si Qingyan was speechless. The crowd, is this the time for you to show off your wealth? True enough. When the man with the gun saw the watch that was worth nearly 100 million yuan, he could not hide his greed. He immediately asked Bei Yunj to go and exchange the hostage. Si Qingyan said, Bei Yunj, you, hurry up and call the police. Bei Yunj left after saying that. But in the next moment, the man with the spear didn't let the little boy go. Instead, he suddenly picked up a dagger and stabbed Bei Yunj's snow-white neck. Another idiot who isn't afraid of death. He sneered disdainfully. A rich man who came out of the ivory tower is really idealistic. Bei Yunj slowly glanced at the exquisitely dressed little boy and roughly knew why the criminal was unwilling to let him go. Bei Yunj was silent for a moment before he said slowly, Are you really not letting him go? Cut the crap. Get your parents too. Before the criminal could finish speaking, a painful howl attracted everyone's attention. No one thought that an exquisite and beautiful little girl could do such a thing. Then, the two accomplices of the criminal quickly aimed their weapons at Bei Yunj. End of chapter. Chapter 11-14. What was faster than the two criminals was the gun that Bei Yunj had just snatched. The two criminals' hands were covered in blood. Their faces were twisted in pain, but they did not have the time to pick up the gun. Try picking one up. Suddenly, Bei Yunj's half-smiling voice landed in their ears. It was very frivolous. Let's see if I'm accurate at shooting. As soon as she finished speaking, not only the criminals, but everyone else also felt a chill run down their spines. No one dared to pick it up. After all, this girl could shoot through their hands from such a long distance. A shadow of fear covered their hearts, and the burning pain in their hands was unbearable. It was obvious that this girl had practiced before. The next moment, the guns beside the two of them were kicked away. Si Qingyan had just finished the call when he saw that Bei Yunj had already kidnapped the criminals. A few minutes later, Si Qingyan understood why Bei Yunj asked him to call the police. She just wanted to find someone to deal with the aftermath. It was not only Si Qingyan. The police car that came also felt a chill run down Bei Yunj's spine. Miss, from such a long distance, have you practiced before? He had been a police officer for 3 seconds, but he did not have such accurate marksmanship. I played for 2 years. After Bei Yunj finished speaking slowly, Si Qingyan's scalp went numb. Did this person have 100 hours a day? It was fine if she knew computer science, mathematics, and physics, but she had even played with such bloody things. There's also a little boy inside. He must have been kidnapped. After Bei Yunj reminded him, Si Qingyan pulled her away and reprimanded her, saying that she was not afraid of losing her life. After listening for a long time, Bei Yunj finally realized that the watch Qin Luyan had given her was still in the pool. However, when Bei Yunj went to pick it up, the watch was already gone. In this world, people are not what they used to be. Si Qingyan gloated as he felt pity. These people are really worse than you. You saved them, but someone stole your watch in the chaos. Bei Yunj, now that things had come to this, he could only buy another one that was exactly the same. With this plan in mind, Bei Yunj returned home. However, the next day, she heard Si Qingyan say faintly that there was no second watch that was identical to the one she was wearing. Qin Luyan had bought this watch because it was unique. A few days later, Bei Yunj was visited. Master Shi, Yunj, there's a banquet in 2 days. Bei Yunj sounded a little frustrated. I'm not free. For the past few days, she had been looking for help to see if she could contact someone to make a high-quality imitation watch. Patriarch Shi and Nancy looked at each other. Soon, Nancy whispered, "Dear disciple, this banquet is being held by the Bai family. You have to go." Nancy heaved a sigh of relief, gritted his teeth, and said, "If you go, the ceremony of the successor of the Confederation can be postponed for half a year." All right. Bei Yunj quickly agreed. But Nancy was about to get into a fight with Patriarch Shi. The Bai family. Bei Yunj was still on the phone with Song Yao. To be precise, Bei Yunj was reprimanding Song Yao unilaterally. As the college entrance examination approached, Song Yao actually took on a script at the last minute. Although Song Yao heard that Bei Yunj was laughing, she did not doubt that if Bei Yunj was in Yuncheng, she would probably come to mess with the production team. Before she hung up, Bei Yunj heard a discussion not far away. "Ah, Kel, I really didn't expect you to save little young master. I heard that those people all had guns. And the old madam, I heard that she almost knelt down for you on the spot." The voices on Song Yao's side were too noisy, but Bei Yunj could hear everything clearly. End of chapter. Chapter 11:15. The girl who answered just smiled and said, "I just happened to bump into him." With that said, Tong Li quickly changed the topic and walked to a corner. No one paid attention to the girl's conversation. Suddenly, someone asked, "But, Kel, why do you have such an expensive watch?" Tong Li's smile froze, and a hint of panic flashed across her eyes. However, she quickly said softly, "It's my mother's." Hearing this, the others tactfully shut up. If they had known earlier, the fact that Tong Li was chased out of the Tong family was not a secret in the circle. However, they did not expect that the head of the Tong family would like his lover so much that he would even give her a 9-figure watch. No one noticed that Tong Li could not help but cover the watch on her wrist with her shawl. At the same time, she also covered her trembling hand. 2 days ago, when she was taken away by the Bai family, she panicked and thought that the owner of the watch had come looking for her. However, she did not expect that it was the young master of the Bai family who came looking for their benefactor. Tong Li felt even more depressed. If the young master was not blind, she might have been criticized by everyone for taking that watch in the chaos. She would not be standing here and being treated as a noble by Madame Bai. Thinking of this, Tong Li could not help but look sarcastic. Some people were born with good luck and could even throw away a watch worth nearly 100 million. However, she was chased out of the family with her seriously ill mother when she became an adult. Now, she had to rely on others' kindness to gain their attention. Kel, congratulations. Tong Li turned around and saw that Wang Huiying had come to greet her. She was a little flattered. Huiying. However, on second thought, the Bai family's status in Continent K was comparable to the Confederation 191. It was only right that Wang Huiying came to greet her. "I just came from Elder Dong's place and brought you good news. Elder Dong has agreed to accept you as his disciple." After Wang Huiying finished speaking, Tong Li was overjoyed. Really? It was difficult to walk in the scientific research circle in Continent K without connections. Tong Li never dreamed that Elder Dong would be willing to accept her as his disciple. Of course it's true. Kel, you're not bad. Wang Huiying smiled. She was not wrong, but Wang Huiying knew that there was another reason. Even Elder Dong wanted to give the Bai family face. Many people had heard the news that the Bai family wanted to adopt Tong Ying as their daughter. Clearly, Tong Xia was going to have a meteoric rise. A dark look flashed across Wang Huiying's eyes. She smiled and said, "If that's the case, it won't be a problem to enter Confederation 191. His words made Tong Yi unable to calm down. However, it was the first time Tong Yi was surrounded by so many people. He couldn't help but smile. Compared to Huiying, I'm just an ordinary person. Wang Huiying's gloomy mood in the past few days was completely relieved because of Tong Ying's words. Unfortunately, from the corner of her eye, Wang Huiying saw Pei Yunj, who was staring at someone. A trace of mockery flashed across her eyes. She didn't even need to think to know that Master Shi was the one who sent him here. Thinking of this, she immediately walked over. Miss Pei is alone. Don't you want to make some friends? When Wang Huiying saw that Pei Yunj was being ignored, she couldn't help but poke at her. Who knew? Pei Yunj hung up after saying something to the person on the phone. He turned around and sneered. Miss Wang, you're quite worried. Why don't you let Mr. Wang stay in the hospital and make some more friends? Wang Huiying's face turned ashen. She didn't expect Pei Yunj to dare to mention it. You. When Tong Li saw Pei Yunj, she felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. End of chapter. Chapter 11:16. At that time, Pei Yunj was dressed so tightly that Tong Hua did not recognize her. Pei Yunj, you have to know that you don't have the right to attend this banquet. Wang Huiying gritted her teeth and sneered. This was the first time Wang Huiying had openly challenged someone. Many people were surprised. However, most of them were just here to watch the show. Offending Wang Huiying would not end well in Continent K. Sure enough, the butler came over because of the commotion. What's going on, Miss Wang? The butler asked hurriedly. Does the Bai family invite just anyone? I feel like I'm lowering my status. Wang Huiying's tone was cold. The steward looked troubled. Today's banquet is specially organized for the young master and Miss Tong. All the guests invited are important guests, at this moment. Tong Hua's eyes darkened. She looked at Pei Yunj and knew that her chance had come. The socialites in Continent K were also xenophobic. In the past, she was the one who was treated as an outsider. However, the most pitiful person was someone else now. However, Tong Hua did not sympathize with Pei Yunj. She only felt that Pei Yunj had asked for it since she dared to go against Wang Huiying. Huiying is my friend. Miss, since you're alone, why don't you sit at the back? Tong Hua said calmly. The butler hesitated when he heard this. He remembered that although this young lady had come alone, the invitation she received had arranged for her to have a first-class seat. It's not considered rude. The people at this table are all people like Elder Dong and Master Shi. Tong Hua's tone was gentle. She even smiled at Pei Yunj and asked, Miss Pei, you should understand, right? As soon as she finished speaking, Pei Yunj's gaze slowly swept over her. Tong Hua clenched her fists unconsciously. She felt an inexplicable pressure. However, the next moment. He only heard Pei Yunj scoff softly, but she did not say a word. Obviously, she did not take them seriously. Tong Hua's smile froze for a moment. Suddenly, someone congratulated them from not far away. Everyone turned around and saw that it was Madame Bai. Ah, cool, are you still adapting here? Madame Bai looked at Tong Yi with a gentle gaze. She took her hand and attracted the envy of many people. Tong Li saved the young master of the Bai family. It was worth it to exchange for such treatment. Thank you, madam. I'm fine here. Tong Ye's lips curled up as well. She was grateful to Madame Bai for helping her out of her predicament. If the Bai family hadn't paid for her mother's treatment, she might have stolen the watch and sold it to the black market. You don't have to be so polite with me. Actually, I also hope that I can have a daughter. Madame Bai's hint made Tong Ye's eyes light up. However, in the next moment, Madame Bai asked, what were you talking about? Tong Yi immediately said stiffly, nothing important. We were just chatting. When Madame Bai heard this, she didn't pay much attention to it. However, when he glanced at Pei Yunj, who was not far away, a trace of amazement flashed through his eyes. Since when did Continent K have such a stunning beauty? Madame Bai was in a daze. Wang Huiying and Tong Ye's expressions changed slightly. But in his heart, he knew very well that even if that person didn't speak, it was still very difficult to ignore him. Madam Bai, long time no see. The familiar voice surprised Wang Huiying. She turned to look at Elder Dong, who was walking over. Elder Dong, it's my honor that you're willing to come. Madam Bai immediately greeted him with a smile. Great-grandfather Dong, you're finally here. Wang Huiying held Elder Dong's hand and said coquettishly. If I don't come, who's going to stand up for you? Elder Dong's words puzzled everyone. Stand up for what? Chapter 11:17. At this moment, Madam Bai's smile faded. She quickly took Tong Li's hand and went up the stage. She chuckled and said, today's banquet was specially held for Ah Wu. The audience applauded. Elder Dong raised his eyebrows but didn't say anything. Tong Li blushed. Thank you, Madam Bai. What's there to thank me for? If it weren't for you, Ah Ning wouldn't have been so lucky to come back safely. Madam Bai patted Tong Li's hand and smiled. I heard from the director that there weren't any casualties because you fought back against the robbers. As soon as she finished speaking, Bei Yunji's eyes darkened as she looked at Tong Li on the stage. Suddenly, you're Bei Yunj, aren't you? A solemn voice sounded in an unfriendly tone. Bei Yunj glanced at Elder Dong and nodded indifferently, but her attitude angered Elder Dong. Elder Dong sneered. You're indeed Nancy's disciple. You're just as frivolous and ignorant. Nancy didn't take over Confederation 191 back then. Now it's his disciple's turn. Do you really think you can sit in that position? If I can't, why are you so anxious? Bei Yunji's words made Elder Dong's face turn ashen. Ridiculous. No matter what, the successor of Confederation 191 must be of good character. Does Miss Pei think she's qualified? Bei Yunji's temper wasn't good to begin with. The next moment, Bei Yunji's slow tone was indeed infuriating. She sneered. Why, Elder Dong, do you think you can cremate a few relics after you pass away 100 years ago? As soon as she finished speaking, almost the entire place fell silent. These words were so ruthless that it made people tremble in fear. Bastard. Elder Dong was so angry that his whole body trembled. He slammed the table and stood up, unable to control his anger. The surrounding people were scared out of their wits. Wang Huiying's eyes were filled with sarcasm and coldness. Bei Yunj actually dared to offend Elder Dong. Wasn't she courting death? But then, Madam Bai walked over. What's going on? Madam Bai subconsciously looked at Bei Yunj. She actually had a good impression of this young lady. Madam Bai, Grandpa Dong didn't mean to ruin your banquet. Wang Huiying pretended to be helpless. At this moment, Tong Yi suddenly said, no wonder Miss Wang. I wanted Miss Pei to change to another table, but I didn't expect Miss Pei to be so stubborn. Her hesitant look made the others look at Bei Yunj differently. They simply thought that Bei Yunj was trying to climb up the social ladder or deliberately stirring up trouble in the Bai family. Many people were rejoicing in his misfortune, planning to watch the show. They wanted to see how this troublemaker would be chased out of the Bai family. Unexpectedly, Madam Bai only chuckled and asked, Miss Pei, you're not from Continent K, are you? I'm from Country A. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, Madam Bai's eyes lit up. Yuncheng? Yes. Are all the girls in Cloud City so beautiful now? Madam Bai's teasing made Tong Yi and Wang Huiying's faces stiffen. When Elder Dong frowned, Madam Bai said, Elder Dong, today is the Bai family's banquet. I hope you can give us some face. Since Madam Bai had said so, Elder Dong couldn't say anything no matter how bad his expression was. On the other hand, Tong Yi pursed her lips, feeling gloomy. Madam Bai had never been easy to talk to. Even she was close to Madam Bai because she saved young Master Bai. But what right did Bei Yunj have? Tong Yi immediately said, Miss Pei, aren't you going to apologize to Elder Dong? Chapter 11:18. No one said a word. After all, they had never heard of this excessively beautiful girl being the young miss of any prestigious family. Who would be so bored as to provoke Elder Dong and the Bai family's benefactor for a girl? All of a sudden, Bai Yunj laughed and raised her beautiful eyes. She said calmly, "Miss Tong, since you're so concerned about others, when are you going to return my watch?" Hearing this, everyone else was confused. They didn't understand what was going on between Bai Yunj and Tong Hua. When Tong Wu heard this, she looked up abruptly. Her body stiffened and a chill ran down her spine. No wonder she found Bai Yunj's voice so familiar. She was the girl in the mall. Tong Hua's eyes were filled with fear and uneasiness. Her face turned even paler. "Miss Pei, what do you mean?" She didn't want to claim credit for taking Bai Yunj's watch. She just wanted to sell it on the black market to save money for her mother's treatment. She didn't expect the Bai family to treat her as their savior. Bai Yunj's eyes were cold. She suddenly laughed. "Miss Tong, do you really think it's so easy to take my watch?" Tong Hua instinctively covered the watch in her hand. She was nervous and scared, but her tone was cold. "Miss Pei, don't talk nonsense." It was also Bai Yunj's first time meeting such a woman who did such a stupid thing without hesitation. When Tong Wu saw that Bai Yunj didn't say anything, she thought that Bai Yunj didn't dare to offend her. She was even more determined not to admit it. She didn't hate Bai Yunj at all. Why did Bai Yunj get all the good things? How could she have such an expensive watch and still win the praise of others? It was so unfair. "Miss Pei, you have to have evidence." Tong Hua took a deep breath and raised her chin at Bai Yunj. She smiled and said, "Although I don't know who Miss Pei is, I don't think you can offend me." The atmosphere was tense. Everyone was thinking, it's over. Tong Hua was now the most popular person in the Bai family. How could Bai Yunj be so stupid as to offend the Bai family? However, Madame Bai hesitated when she saw the watch in Tong Ye's hand. She didn't know why, although she didn't dislike children. However, she had a feeling that Tong Yi was not the kind of person who could steal a gun from a robber. Suddenly, just when everyone was silent, a soft and tender voice sounded. "Mom." Everyone turned around and heard the old butler anxiously chasing after the little boy. "Little young master, you've gone the wrong way. Please slow down." The little boy seemed to have just woken up. His eyes were red, and there was fear in his lifeless eyes. He ran towards Madame Bai with his baby fat arms. However, the little boy did not notice that there was someone standing in front of Madame Bai. He hugged her just like that. Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows subconsciously and supported the little boy who almost fell. Soon, when the little boy realized that he seemed to have hugged the wrong person, Bai Yunj slowly squatted down. "Kid, I'm not your parent." Seeing this, everyone's eyes widened. One had to know that the young master of the Bai family hated the touch of strangers. They really didn't expect that someone would be able to step on a mine in such a frenzy. Was this bad luck or did she like to court death? However, the next moment, everyone's jaws dropped. Ah Ning's short little hands directly hugged Bai Yunj's neck and refused to let go. She looked so fragile that it made everyone's heart ache. "Sister, I'm scared." Chapter 11:19. The little boy rarely spoke, so his voice sounded sticky and a little twisted. She couldn't quite hear what he was saying. But Bai Yunj understood. Bai Yunj's neck was suddenly hugged and she bent over, unable to get up. She was surprised that this child could recognize her. However, Tong Hua's expression was as ugly as it could be, but before she could panic, Wang Huiying laughed and mocked her. "Bai Yunj, Ah Ning can't see anything. Aren't you too shameless to pretend to be a human?" Tong Hua forced herself to calm down when she heard this. Her eyes turned cold, but she smiled and said, "Miss Pei, are you here to cause trouble?" At this moment, everyone looked like they had suddenly realized something. How could there be such a bad and stupid person who purposely came to provoke others? Everyone looked at Bai Yunj with disgust. However, Madame Bai didn't say anything and looked at Bai Yunj thoughtfully. Hence, Elder Dong, who had noticed this, sneered. I don't need to tell you how much Ning's watch was sold for, right? Little girl, even if you want to lie, you have to know the truth first. Then, you have to see if you're worthy. Do you know what kind of family the Tong family is? Indeed. It was also because of this that everyone was convinced. The Tong family was one of the top 5 families in continent K, so it was reasonable for Tong Hua to buy this watch. But Bai Yunj? She didn't have any accessories on her body, and she didn't even wear an exquisite gown like the others. She only wore a simple white cotton shirt. She was simply an eye-catching anomaly at this banquet. Suddenly, a voice interrupted Bai Yunj's thoughts. What lie? Everyone turned around and saw a man in a wheelchair. Even though he was in a wheelchair, it was still difficult to ignore his handsome and indifferent eyes. His figure was thin but slender. It's President Shang. Everyone was shocked at first, then they were in disbelief. President Shang actually came to Continent K. Even though the man was in a wheelchair, many women were still attracted to him. Bai Yunj also raised his eyebrows. He didn't know when Shang Yan had arrived in Continent K. Elder Dong had also heard of Shang Yan and didn't dare offend him. CEO Shang, I'm sorry for letting you see such a dirty thing. Dirty business? Shang Yan smiled, but his eyes were clear and pitch black. It was easy to be stunned. Yeah, you also sensed that Shang Yan was angry. That's right, President Shang. Madame Bai is holding a banquet for Miss Tong today, but this woman actually said that the watch that Miss Tong lost when she was saving someone was hers. Immediately, someone took the opportunity to strike up a conversation with Shang Yan, mocking Bai Yunj. But he didn't expect that. Shang Yan only laughed ambiguously. The next moment, Shang Yan's wheelchair slowly moved towards Tong Yi. Tong Yi looked at the man in front of her. Even though she knew that this man couldn't walk, she couldn't help but feel touched. Her face blushed. With such attractiveness, it wasn't difficult to tell how attractive Shang Yan was before the accident. However, the man's next words made everyone's jaws drop. It's true that she doesn't know what kind of family the Tong family is. After all, she doesn't like to interfere in the company's matters. The man's slow words made everyone freeze. However, just as Tong Ye's face turned pale, the man said unhurriedly, but since when can the heir of Higgins Corporation be found trouble? With that said, the atmosphere suddenly fell silent before it boiled over. Everyone gasped. The heir of Higgins Corporation. Chapter 11:20. Tong Ye's face paled. But in the next second. However, Shang Yan reached out his slender and good-looking hand and took off the watch on her wrist. His tone was still gentle, but he was gently wiping the watch with the black-gray checkered man's handkerchief. Be it this watch or anything else, Miss Tong should know that there will be a price to pay if you take it by force. In an instant, the blood drained from Tong Pei's face, and his body was on the verge of collapse. Miss Tong, was it you or Miss Pei who saved Ning back then? At this moment, Mrs. Bai suddenly spoke and looked at Tong Yi sharply. Tong Ye's face paled and she hesitated. At this moment. Shang Yan had already handed the watch back to Bai Yunj and said calmly in a gentle voice, Elder young miss, if you have the time to throw a watch worth hundreds of millions, why don't you have the time to return to the corporation to take a look? Pei Chi-Chi, who was being reprimanded, was speechless. She did not throw it casually. It was because she knew that this watch was waterproof that Bai Yunj threw it into the pool near the robbers so that it would not be damaged. Miss Pei, were you the one who saved Ning back then? Mrs. Bai was a little incoherent with excitement. The rest of the people were in disbelief. A dignified heir of Higgins Corporation would actually take such a risk to save someone. I just happened to be here. I was having dinner with a friend. Bai Yunj had never liked to be particular about the ways of the world, so there was no fluctuation in her tone. However, Shang Yan's voice continued, to Yunj, this is not a big deal. Mrs. Bai, you don't have to take it to heart. Today's banquet was specially invited by the head of the Shi family. He hopes that Yunj can stay in Union 191. Hearing this, the rest of the people were still confused. However, Mrs. Bai immediately understood what Shang Yan meant. Mrs. Bai smiled. Perhaps to Miss Pei, it's not a big deal, but to me, it's a favor that I can't repay in my lifetime. She then looked at Bai Yunj and her tone became even more serious. If Miss Pei needs any help in the future, the Bai family will definitely cooperate fully. With that said, Tong Ye's face was pale and she did not dare to face the current situation. She was afraid to see those disdainful and mocking gazes. However, in this circle, everyone kicked a man who was down. No way. What era is this? Why is she still playing such shameless tricks? Tisk, serves him right for being chased out by the Tong clan. Now that you mention it, I think I know why the Tong family chased this pair of mother and daughter out. Everyone's words pierced Tong Ye's heart. She raised her head abruptly, and as expected, she was faced with a bunch of mocking faces. Even those who had just flattered her now had looks of anger or disgust on their faces. Tong Yi subconsciously looked at Elder Dong. However, Elder Dong's face was dark and gloomy. He glanced at her coldly and then left. Elder Dong's attitude clearly meant that she would never have the chance to become Elder Dong's student again. Her face immediately turned red and green, and she felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. In just one night, she fell from the clouds to the mud and was stepped on by everyone. Madam Bai, you have to believe me. I didn't lie to you on purpose. Tong Wu stood in front of Madam Bai. Tears fell from her eyes. Her innocent face made people feel sorry for her. However, Madam Bai was a person with powerful means. How could she not see through this young girl? Miss Tong, are you asking us to chase away our benefactor just now? Madam Bai asked calmly. Chapter 1121. Tong Wu was speechless. Do you want our Bai family to go back on our word and be used by you? Madam Bai's gaze was sharp, causing Tong Wu to freeze and not dare to look into her eyes. Madam Bai, I didn't. I just. Tong Wu bit her lip tightly. Madam Bai took a deep breath and said in a cold tone, I can let this matter slide. But in the future, I don't want to see Miss Tong appear in front of me again. Tong Wu felt embarrassed and did not dare to face the gazes of others. She clenched her fists. Thank you, Madam Bai. Before leaving, Tong Wu also saw Bai Yunj chatting with Shang Yan not far away. There was an indescribable dark glint in her eyes, twisted and jealous. Why are you here? Bai Yunj glanced at Shang Yan. Nance knows that things can easily happen at banquets, so he asked me to come. Shang Yan said slowly, besides, you didn't like any of the doctors I picked for you. With that said, Bai Yunj felt Shang Yan's gaze on her. Cui Hengchuan seems to have left Yuncheng. This matter is not urgent. After Bai Yunj finished speaking, he heard the noise around him and did not have the patience to stay here any longer. He looked at him politely and asked, President Shang, shall we continue with the rest of the process? Shang Yan was speechless. Outside the door. If you can't choose within 2 months, I'll send everyone to you. Shang Yan sent Bai Yunj to the door, feeling at ease with his threat. Bai Yunj was speechless. Shang Yan had arranged at least 30 to 40 psychiatrists for her. Soon. Shang Yan saw someone from the corner of his eye and looked down. He said calmly, someone is here to pick you up. Hearing this, Bai Yunj immediately knew who it was. She instinctively turned her head and saw the window by the driver's seat slowly roll down, revealing the man's handsome and noble side profile. Her lips curled up unconsciously. Shang Yan also noticed that Bai Yunj's gaze never left the man. His eyes darkened as he watched Bai Yunj greet him before heading towards Huashidu. Only Nya Yu could clearly sense the faint loneliness in Shang Yan's figure. He wanted to say something but hesitated. Originally, Nya Yu was indescribably happy that Shang Yan had pulled himself together. But looking at it now, Nya Yu felt that Shang Yan was going to fall even deeper this time. Why did it have to be Miss Pei? In the car. Bei Yunj leaned back lazily and peeked at the man's carefree appearance from the rearview mirror. Shang Yan. Huashidu still had an impression of Shang Yan. Bei Yunj also raised her eyebrows. You remember? Hearing this, Huashidu glanced at her indifferently. Obviously, this little girl didn't know how much she could attract bees and butterflies. Actually, the first time he saw Shang Yan, Huashidu had sensed that the way Shang Yan looked at Bei Yunj was different. However, Shang Yan didn't seem to plan on letting Bei Yunj know about his thoughts. Her behavior was well behaved, but she was always protecting Bei Yunj. Shang Yan is quite capable, Bei Yunj suddenly admitted. She wasn't in Higgins' group, but Shang Yan managed Higgins' group in an orderly manner alone. The man laughed softly, as if it was an illusion in the night wind. Bei Yunj only heard the man ask coldly. And then? Bei Yunj, although she didn't quite understand what Huashidu meant, Bei Yunj wasn't stupid from his tone. She had a feeling that something could easily happen in this direction. Bei Yunj deliberated for a moment and nodded numbly. Pretty good. Chapter 11:22. Huashidu subconsciously licked his thin red lips and laughed angrily. Back at the manor. Stay here. The man dropped a sentence and went upstairs without looking back. Bei Yunj, ? Bei Yunj started to think about what she had said just now to make this person unhappy. Why did he want her to reflect downstairs in the middle of the night? However, not long after, Bei Yunj saw the man come down with a medical kit. Sit properly. Huashidu opened the medical kit and slowly rolled up the girl's pants under Bei Yunj's suspicious gaze. Her slender calves were so fair that they were dazzling, but her knee was bruised and swollen. Blood was seeping out from the middle. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. She did not notice the injury on her knee and thought that it was just a red and swollen patch that would heal in 2 days. It was only when the man held her slender and fair ankle and placed it on his thigh as he applied alcohol on her wound that Bei Yunj trembled slightly. Only then did she know how painful it was. The man paused and became even gentler and more careful. From time to time, he would gently blow at her wound. The numbing itch made Bei Yunj's body go soft for some reason. Bei Yunj watched as the man lowered his head and treated her wound. Her beautiful eyes darkened, but her thoughts ran wild. After Huashidu finished treating her wound, the corners of her lips curved up. Suddenly, she supported herself on the sofa with one hand and leaned closer to the man. She smiled and said, "Brother, I'm going to take the college entrance examination in a few days. When do you think is suitable for me to start dating?" The man's eyes were dark and gloomy. The moment he looked up, he met her beautiful and seductive eyes. This little girl probably didn't know the consequences of flirting. Especially for a man who had been enduring and restraining himself. Huashidu's Adam's apple bobbed. When he spoke again, his voice was hoarse, but it was hopelessly sexy. When do you want to start dating? Bei Yunj's mind was only thinking about when to kidnap this D*MN man into bed. Looking at the man's fixed gaze, she almost couldn't help but ask him if he wanted to hit a home run. Bei Yunj's beautiful canine teeth subconsciously rubbed the side of her cheeks to wake herself up. It can't be too late. A young girl of this age dashed around recklessly, and the way she played straight balls was simply frightening. The man's eyes were so dark that ink could drip out. Looking at the girl with slender legs on the sofa, his eyes were also stimulated by that touch of whiteness. Yes. The man's deep voice was faint, but it revealed an unconcealable hoarseness and lust. On the plane. Bei Yunj leaned back lazily. Suddenly, a girl came up to her and called out sneakily, "Miss?" Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and slowly opened her eyes. She thought they were almost there. In the end, it was a little girl with a pair of doe eyes. She looked around furtively and asked carefully, "Miss, does your brother have a girlfriend?" After that, the little girl's face turned red. Bei Yunj hesitated for a moment and rubbed her forehead. She looked up and asked, "Which one?" "The one who sat next to you just now. Wasn't he a little too handsome?" With the face of a top-notch scumbag and those peach blossom eyes, it was as if there were 100,000 Pikachu running in my heart. The girl was extremely excited. Bei Yunj was silent. After a long while, she slowly removed the brim of her cap and mask, revealing a bright and flamboyant face. Do you think that I look very similar to him? Bei Yunj was quite polite, but there was no smile in her eyes. The girl subconsciously fell into a daze. Chapter 11:23. At first, when she heard Bei Yunj call the man next door brother, she thought that it was an ordinary sibling relationship. But now, looking at Bei Yunj's excessively beautiful face, she was obviously wrong. She had thought that it was a sibling relationship, but in the end, it turned out to be a couple. Huashidu had just returned, and Sing Su followed him respectfully. Miss, are you hungry? Bei Yunj did not say anything. Sing Su probed, what do you want to eat? Bei Yunj glanced at the person beside her and pulled down her hat again. She said faintly, Pikachu. Sing Su, in the airport. It was empty and bright. There was a cool breeze in the airport. Outside the huge glass wall, there were clear clouds. Walking on the white bricks that reflected the changing wind and clouds outside, the people who could distinguish the sky from the ground were the pedestrians coming and going. On the way. Sing Su looked at Bei Yunj in front and could not help but ask, Master Du, did you bully Miss Pei yesterday? Huashidu's cold gaze quickly swept past him. Sing Su shut his mouth. It was only when he saw Bei Yunj sitting in the front passenger seat that the man licked his itchy teeth. He felt that it was not a good thing for this child to sulk. Not long after. Bei Yunj, who was sorting out her emotions, realized that Sing Su was also here today. The person driving should be Sing Su too. However, when she regained her senses, Bei Yunj was about to get out of the car when she saw Huashidu open the door of the driver's seat and sit in. Bei Yunj watched as Huashidu started the car. Why was the atmosphere not right? However, looking at the man's eyes, Bei Yunj did not react for a moment before she received a call. Bei Yunj turned on her phone. It was probably Shang Yan who wanted to ask if she had arrived in Yuncheng. Seeing that the atmosphere was slightly quiet, Bei Yunj picked up the call and silently turned her head to the side, answering Shang Yan intermittently. It was probably about the company and the doctor's resume that he had sent over. They chatted for a few minutes. Shang Yan suddenly fell silent and asked, Did you quarrel with Mr. Hua? Bei Yunj paused. I don't think so. Shang Yan could not help but chuckle when he heard that. He suddenly felt that Huashidu was quite pitiful sometimes. He pretended to ask, Eldest miss, when do you think you can treat me to a meal? Eat? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows, you came to Yuncheng? When? As soon as he finished speaking. By the time Bei Yunj realized what had happened, her phone had already fallen into someone else's hand and the car had already stopped by the side of the road. The man said casually, President Shang, if you want to come to Yuncheng for a meal, you can come anytime. I'm always free. Hearing this, Shang Yan smiled. All right, I'll definitely visit if I have the chance. The call was hung up. Bei Yunj was also looking at him. When the man thought about how Bei Yunj had ignored him and chatted with Shang Yan as if there was no one else around, he could not help but lick the corner of his lips and smile. His hand on the steering wheel suddenly took out a cigarette from the cigarette box at the side. His well-defined hand held a cigarette and lazily lit it. He asked in a light tone, You want to date him? Bei Yunj looked at the man's upturned eyes. His pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes were a little cynical. However, there was no smile in his eyes, but it still made her heart itch. What? Bei Yunj was a little seduced by the way the man smoked. Chapter 11:24. In fact, Huashidu had never smoked in front of her. In this man, smoking had become a kind of mood. It was so seductive that she could not resist and her heart pounded wildly. Huashidu placed his arm outside the car window and casually flicked the cigarette ash with his slender fingers. Does Shang Yan treat you better than me? Bei Yunj, for a moment, she could not help but suspect that Xiang Yan had asked her on purpose. However, this was the first time she saw a hint of restlessness in the man's eyes. He was not wearing a shirt or a suit. He was only wearing a simple black t-shirt, which accentuated his cold and fair arm muscles. The lines of his muscles were elegant, but his handsome eyes exuded a youthful aura. It was not hard to imagine how many girls he could charm away in school. If this appearance appeared in university, people would probably think that he was a senior. Bei Yunj subconsciously looked away, her heart pounding. No. However, she answered too quickly and felt that it was a little perfunctory. Are you tired of staying with me? Bei Yunj watched as the man bit the cigarette and leaned back. His slightly raised jawline was well defined, his sexy Adam's apple bobbed, and the cigarette butt turned scarlet. Finally, he casually exhaled a beautiful smoke ring. This should be the first time Huashidu did not coax her like a child, but it was even more ambiguous and made her heart beat faster. Not really, Bei Yunj started to coax Huashidu again. She smiled intimately into his ear and tested the edge of danger. Haven't you tried it yet? Hearing this, Huashidu suddenly laughed. At this moment, Bei Yunj realized that something was wrong. The man did not seem to have calmed down. However, he turned to look at her. Bei Yunj, try. Why, Yunyun wants to check the goods. The man's usually lazy and carefree peach blossom eyes were filled with a faint smile, and there was an inexplicable sense of aggression. Without waiting for Bei Yunj to react, she saw the man slowly extinguish the cigarette butt and throw away the cigarette in his hand. The next moment, the man suddenly took off his shirt in a practiced manner, revealing his strong waist and abdomen. His Apollo's belt was faintly visible, and his firm and sexy 8-pack abs made one's imagination run wild. The man was topless and had broad shoulders and a narrow waist. He had one hand by her waist and he held the girl's hand and moved it down his abs. When Bei Yunj touched the piece of metal on the man's belt, her whole body froze, and the world in her mind collapsed. Do you need me to teach you how to play? The man looked at her and her ears turned red, but he only laughed in a low and lazy voice and blew into her ear playfully. The neat trousers and metal buttons did not give Bei Yunj a sense of security. Instead, she increasingly felt that the man's temperament was both lustful and flirtatious, revealing a strong sense of crisis. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. It was the first time she was so nervous. She instinctively wanted to push the man away. Huashidu, we're in the car. Moreover, it was broad daylight, and the car was parked not far from the crowd. Yes, our Yunyun is young and likes to experiment with different things. The man curled his lips lazily. Every word he said by her ear made the girl's ears turn red. Aren't you trying your best to satisfy Yunyun? Today, this man seemed to be deliberately trying to take her life. Feeling the man holding her hand to undo the metal buckle on his belt, Bei Yunj immediately broke free. Huashidu. It was the first time she was teased so much that her voice was unstable. Her heart raced and she flew into a rage out of humiliation. In the end, Bei Yunj looked at him expressionlessly. However, the little girl's snow-white neck was flushed red. When the man saw this, he could not help but laugh. His pair of seductive peach blossom eyes curled up. As his shoulders trembled slightly, it was as if countless little stars had fallen into his eyes. It was really, 100,000 volts hit her heart. Chapter 1125. Bei Yunj had lived for 2 lifetimes. This was the first time she felt what it meant to be utterly embarrassed. Now, Bei Yunj sat in the front passenger seat and looked at Huashidu, who was in a good mood. Her heart was already numb. Back home, Bei Yunj quickly went upstairs, but when she thought of the scene in the car just now, she couldn't write a report summary. Suddenly, Bei Yunj felt that high school life was quite good. It was simple and happy. The next day, Bei Yunj returned to school early in the morning. Hongda High School. Bei Yunj had just arrived at the entrance when she saw a huge crowd. She raised her eyebrows and quickly avoided them and entered the school. Student, where's your badge? Bei Yunj was stopped. Recently, too many fans wanted to sneak in, so those without badges were not allowed in. Bei Yunj paused. Badge? She suddenly remembered that if she didn't wear her badge would be deducted. She licked the corner of her lips. Grade 12 Class 7, Bei Yunj. As soon as she finished speaking, the student on duty froze and looked up at Bei Yunj, who had taken off her mask. His ears turned red. Senior Pei. Senior Pei was actually back. The junior was incoherent. Senior, you can go in. Bei Yunj was a little surprised. She only nodded and said politely, thank you. With that said, Bei Yunj entered the door, while the other students on duty looked at Bei Yunj's back view excitedly. Is this grade 12 Bei Yunj? She's too good-looking. It's over, I'm not going to be straight anymore. The other junior couldn't help but be overjoyed. Forget it, aren't you afraid of the two top students by Senior Pei's side? After the girl finished speaking, her tone changed. But Senior Pei's tie is really awesome. There's actually a girl who looks so handsome in a tie. On the third floor. Bei Yunj could feel how tense the atmosphere was as she walked along the corridor. Even if the students were fetching water, they were also memorizing words. Many people were discussing this matter in front of the grade list. F***CK, are you serious? Qin Youjiao is first in the exam again? That's too fierce. Yeah, she came back from nearly a month ago and got first place in all 4 weekly exams. It's even scarier than when we were in school. Hearing this, someone was scared. But she still has extra points. The International Musicians Association can give her at least 15 points. So this time, Qin Youjiao is very likely to be the provincial top scholar. I heard that the students from number 1 high school next door didn't score higher than Qin Youjiao. Several people couldn't help but discuss. At this time, Bei Yunj lazily leaned against the side of the ranking board and looked at Chu Zhixing and Lu Yuanxi with their lips pursed in disappointment. What's the standard of the 7th class? Wasn't he very arrogant before? Why is she being beaten up by our class Qin Youjiao now? The students of Class 1 couldn't help but clamor, as if they had vented their anger. This month, Class 7 didn't get first place even once. Goddess Qin is still Goddess Qin. When she came back from Neeli, not only did she become the youngest C-level member of the International Musicians Association, she even beat everyone in the mock exam. What kind of big boss revenge script is this? The people from Class 1 continued to praise her. However, Chu Zhixing's tone was mocking. Acknowledged her as your master. You're so good at barking for others. Bei Yunj was quite surprised. When did Chu Zhixing become so good at scolding people? Lu Yuanxi also smiled carelessly. Yeah, our class isn't full either. What's the hurry? However, hearing this, the people from Class 1's tone became even more mocking. Don't tell me you think that you can beat Qin Youjiao just because Bei Yunj is back. Chapter 1126. The people from Class 7 are treating her as their savior. Why don't they think about how that idler is better than Qin Youjiao? Another person's tone was contemptuous and mocking. Because Qin Youjiao had been first in the weekly exam 4 times in a row, this indeed made the students of Class 7 speechless. Qin Youjiao had indeed changed a lot after coming back this time. They also knew that Bei Yunj was really going out to play. They might really be slapped in the face by Qin Youjiao. Wake up, who does Bei Yunj think she is? Why do you have to kneel and lick such a b***tch? Before that person could finish speaking, Chu Zhixing suddenly grabbed him by the collar. Chu Zhixing was filled with coldness and murderous intent. The veins on his hands bulged and his eyes were cold. Say that again. Suddenly, a slow voice sounded. Xiao Chu, your temper hasn't been very good recently. Chu Zhixing and Lu Yuanxi froze and turned to look at the person beside them. Bei Yunj took off his black mask and hat lazily and walked in front of Chu Zhixing to measure his height. Did you grow taller? Hearing this, Chu Zhixing nodded obediently. Lu Yuanxi was speechless. This was really Bei Yunzhi's little puppy. Are you judging me? Bei Yunzhi walked in front of that boy again. There was no smile in his eyes, but it was even more terrifying than Chu Zhixing's cold expression just now. The boy froze and suddenly remembered how Bei Yunzhi had hit people in year 2. Bei Yunzhi only patted his face with the mineral water bottle in his hand and smiled gently. Then what are you? The boy's face paled and he apologized in fright. I am sorry. Get lost. Don't bully the children of class 7, do you understand? Bei Yunzhi's eyes curved and the mineral water bottle suddenly hit his chest. The boy's face was twisted in pain and even the veins on his neck were popping out. I understand, this scene made one's scalp turn numb. No one else in class 7 dared to provoke Bei Yunzhi openly. It didn't take long for them to disappear without a trace. Master Pei is so arrogant. Lu Yuanxi unconsciously curled the corners of his lips and said in a carefree manner. Bei Yunzhi raised his eyebrows and ignored him arrogantly. He turned around and left. Lu Yuanxi, no one was more arrogant than his deskmate. In the office, Teacher Wen, who knew that Bei Yunzhi was back, couldn't stop smiling. Those who didn't know better would think that their daughter was returning home. Their faces were filled with joy and they were polite to everyone they met. However, the head teacher of class 1 glanced at Mr. Wen and said with a strange smile, Mr. Wen, how long has it been since Bei Yunzhi studied? There were only 2 or 3 days left before the college entrance examination. Don't let it be worse than the time during the joint entrance exam. Teacher Wen just tolerated it and smiled indifferently. We'll ask her when the time comes. If you take student Qin Youjiao with you, you might even be able to produce a top scholar in the city. Top scorer in the city. The head teacher of class 1's tone was filled with pride. With Qin Youjiao's stable results and her extra marks, she might even be able to become the top scorer in the province. I actually know your difficulties, Teacher Wen. Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing are good at following people, but they are a little biased. As for Bei Yunzhi, she's too arrogant. She really thinks that no one can compare to her. Hearing this, Teacher Wen's expression changed. He could tolerate it usually, but it didn't mean that others could point a gun at his students. I've never told students that they have to fight for the first place in everything. But I also have to warn teacher Hao that you might not be able to win even if you fight for it. Chapter 11:27. Teacher Hao's expression darkened. Teacher Hao, I'm going to class, so I won't talk to you anymore. With that said, Teacher Wen left the office. In the entire grade, the news of Bei Yunzhi's return spread. Class 1. Qin Youjiao's eyes darkened as a mocking smile appeared on her lips. Bei Yunzhi is back. Yes. She even hit Wang Shuqiang. This person is simply a hooligan in school. The girl said angrily. Forget it. She won't be able to cause trouble for long. Qin Youjiao only smiled, the faint mockery in her eyes. It was obvious that she did not take Bei Yunzhi seriously. Anyway, she came back this time to crush Bei Yunzhi into the mud. Youjiao, you seem to have been reborn this time. Your score is stable at 730 points. Even if you don't get extra points, you'll definitely enter Yun University. Everyone could not help but be envious. What do you mean by rebirth? I just did a little more homework. Qin Youjiao chuckled. In Nili, apart from practicing the piano, she did questions and only slept for 5 to 6 hours. She studied desperately so that she would not be stepped on by anyone. It was also to make Bei Yunzhi realize that she would never have the right to compete with her. At this thought, coldness flashed past Qin Youjiao's eyes. When Teacher Wen arrived at the class arrogantly, he found that everyone else was doing their homework quietly and Bei Yunzhi was sleeping. She really didn't give him any peace of mind. Seeing that Teacher Wen's expression was not good, Lu Yuanxi immediately pushed Bei Yunzhi. Master Pei, if you don't wake up, old Wen will eat someone. Bei Yunzhi woke up slowly. Her eyes were slightly red, but her expression was not good. Teacher Wen gave a fake smile. Bei Yunj, aren't you used to sleeping at the desk after going out to play for a few months? Bei Yunj hesitated for a moment before she nodded. Everyone was speechless. As expected of Master Pei. Teacher Wen's expression darkened. She was hopeless. She was hopeless. However, Lu Yuanxi immediately said, Teacher, Bei Yunj has a cold today. Bei Yunj turned to look at him. Question mark. But after meeting Lu Yuanxi's eyes, Bei Yunj quickly understood. Lu Yuanxi was deliberately covering for her. Okay, Bei Yunj replied. Only then did Mr. Wen's face fade away. He couldn't help but say with concern, take care of your body. Don't let it affect your performance in the college entrance examination. Yes, thank you, teacher. Bei Yunj nodded. Teacher Wen nodded and gave a few instructions before letting the students do their homework. Afterward, Lu Yuanxi also noticed that there was something wrong with Bei Yunj's expression. What's wrong with you? Are you dreaming? Yeah. Since last night, she had been dreaming about the scene in the car with Huashida yesterday. One moment, the man was blowing air into her ear, and the next moment, the man was laughing. That pair of peach blossom eyes were like electricity. The scene of such a restricted level made it hard for people to speak. Bei Yunj, was this man here to curse her to death? What did you dream of? Lu Yuanxi leaned over and asked. Bei Yunj picked up the glass and drank some water. Then, she picked up the iPad and said faintly, Pikachu with electricity. Lu Yuanxi, ? But it was only in the afternoon that Lu Yuanxi started to wonder if his mouth had been blessed. Bei Yunj really had a cold and her forehead was still a little hot. Until school ended. Bei Yunj, who had already taken the cold medicine, had her usual lazy and beautiful eyes looking listless at this moment. However, at the school gate, she saw Mrs. Qin picking up Qin Youjiao. The surrounding fans also lost control. Chapter 1128. Jiao Jiao, all the best for the college entrance examination. The fans in the crowd were shouting. Qin Youjiao smiled and Mrs. Qin, who was holding Qin Youjiao's hand, also smiled at everyone. Thank you, everyone. Everyone, go back early. Hearing this, the fans became even more excited. However, Qin Youjiao also noticed Bei Yunj in the crowd. She held Mrs. Qin's hand casually and smiled sweetly. Mom, didn't I say that you should rest well and not come and fetch me? My daughter did so well and studied so hard. As a mother, of course I have to care about my daughter. Mrs. Qin touched Qin Youjiao's forehead and said with a smile, Jiao Jiao, Mom will always be proud of you. Qin Youjiao acted coquettishly with Mrs. Qin. However, Bei Yunj only looked away calmly and answered the chauffeur's call. Because there were too many fans, the chauffeur could not stop at the school gate, so Bei Yunj could only leave and walk to a nearby intersection. Mom, Bei Yunj is back too. Do you want to meet her? Qin Youjiao asked after Bei Yunj left. However, Mrs. Qin frowned the moment she heard this name. What's there to meet her? Jiao Jiao, stay away from her too, lest you get into trouble. Mom, I think that Bei Yunj's results are actually alright. They're not that bad. What if she can enter Yun University too? Before Qin Youjiao could finish speaking, Mrs. Qin interrupted her and said with a smile, Her? How is that possible? Jiao Jiao, you don't have to care about her. A dark glint flashed past Qin Youjiao's eyes, but she hoped that Bei Yunj could hear these words with her own ears. She would only vent her anger if she could see Bei Yunj lose her luster. Back home. Bei Yunj had just entered the hall when she looked up and found that not only was Huashida there today, even old Madame Hua and Momo were there. Grandma Hua. After Bei Yunj regained her senses, she called out with a smile. However, old Madame Hua immediately stood up, her expression nervous. Why does your voice sound wrong? Are you not feeling well? It's all right. Bei Yunj did not even look at the man on the sofa beside her. However, the next moment, old Madame Hua held Bei Yunji's face and pressed her forehead against Bei Yunji's forehead. She said, "What do you mean?" He was starting to have a fever. "I told you that Huashidu doesn't know how to take care of girls. The college entrance exam was in 2 days. If you're still running a fever, then you're definitely not in good condition for the college entrance exam." "Fever? Didn't sleep well last night?" Huashidu then looked at Bei Yunj. "Bei Yunj, no. Before the college entrance exam, Gu had to return to the old house. I'll take care of her myself." Old Madame Hua's words caused Bei Yunj and Huashidu to disagree. "Grandma Hua, that's too much trouble." Bei Yunj frowned. Huashidu also said, "Old Madam, how can you have the energy?" "I have a lot of energy. It's better than someone like you who stays in the company every day." "How have you taken care of Gu?" Old Madame Hua grabbed Bei Yunj's hand. "Let's put it this way. I'm taking her away today. You have to listen to Yunyan's thoughts," the man said slowly. However, he did not expect Bei Yunj to suddenly look up at him and be silent for a moment. "That works too." Huashidu, Bei Yunj looked away. She did not want to have that dream again tonight. After pushing Bei Yunj into the car, old Madame Hua educated Huashidu outside the car. "Shidu, I really don't want to pretend that I only have one grandson, MOMO, during the family gathering this year." End of this chapter. Chapter 1129. Huashidu was speechless. Soon, Seng Su could not help but sigh when he saw Madame Hua take Bei Yunj away. Madame Hua was still as ruthless as ever. Other than Madame Hua, no one dared to jump into Master Du's minefield. In the car, Momo was very happy. He could finally let his sister accompany him for a few days. However, Momo's happiness did not last long. Madame Hua said, "Don't disturb sister's preparation for the college entrance examination." Then, she shut Momo at the door. Only a lass was left circling around its little master, shaking its head foolishly. However, what made Madame Hua at a loss was that in the next 2 days, Bei Yunj's fever became even worse. When Madame Hua saw the temperature of 40 degrees Celsius, her hands almost trembled. She immediately called for a private doctor. "Dr. Jiang, you must cure my Gu-er. My Gu-er is taking the college entrance examination tomorrow. There can't be any accidents." Madame Hua could only treat Jiang Baichuan as her savior. However, Jiang Baichuan smiled insincerely. If it wasn't for the fact that this was the Hua family's Empress Dowager, he would definitely scold her. He was a doctor, not a sorcerer. How was it possible for a high fever to disappear overnight? It was already 40 degrees Celsius, any higher and her brain would be fried. When Jiang Baichuan thought about how Miss Pei still had to take the college entrance examination tomorrow, he felt a headache coming on. He took a deep breath. "Madame Hua, I can only try my best to lower her temperature so that she will be in a better state tomorrow. But what about Gu-er's college entrance examination?" The old madam immediately blamed herself and was annoyed. How could this be? In the past, when she took care of Jing, Shidu, and Momo were fine. I can only say that, it's up to fate. It doesn't matter if Miss Pei repeats for a year. Jiang Baichuan didn't think much of it. Anyway, the Qin family and the Hua family could support her. The next day, Bei Yunja's condition was slightly better, but after taking her temperature, she still had a high fever of 39 degrees Celsius. Madame Hua hugged Bei Yunj early in the morning and cried. Bei Yunja's head hurt even more. "Grandma Hua, I haven't been to the examination hall." Hearing Bei Yunja's voice, Madame Hua Guhua, "Madame Hua, you really want to take the exam? Why don't you do it next year? Grandma will definitely find you the best teacher and get you into Yunqing University." Bei Yunj. "It won't take long." Seeing that Bei Yunj insisted on going, old Madame Hua could only ask someone to prepare and send Bei Yunj to the examination hall. However, when Bei Yunj went downstairs, she did not expect Hushidu to already be waiting on the sofa. Bei Yunj had been in a daze for the past 2 days. When she looked at Hushidu, she even paused. Brother? Hushidu knew that Bei Yunj had a high fever last night, so he drove back to the old residence. He walked over to Bei Yunj and touched Bei Yunj's forehead. It was still very hot. Old Madame Hu felt guilty. Shidu, why don't you let Gu rest at home? Do you want to take the exam? Hushidu asked her. Bei Yunj nodded. Hushidu was silent for a moment, but his lips curled up. He held Bei Yunj's hand and walked out. Go then. However, Bei Yunj also felt that the man's palm was a little sweaty. For the first time, Bei Yunj realized that this man, who had always been casual and carefree, could also be nervous. Bei Yunj could not help but smile, but she did not say anything. In the car, after Bei Yunj drank some fever medicine, she leaned on Hushidu's shoulder and slept. After Hushidu finished counting the necessities for the exam that he had prepared for Bei Yunj yesterday, he slowly turned to look at her. He also laughed in anger and reached out to pinch her fingers. Why did I fall into your hands? P.S. Good night, good boys. Chapter 1130. Bei Yunj woke up slowly and saw the crowd of students outside. This was the first time she felt the atmosphere of the college entrance examination. Do you want to go down and take a look? Hushidu asked from the side. Bei Yunj nodded, and the two of them got out of the car together. After Bei Yunj got out of the car, the surrounding gazes quickly landed on Bei Yunj and Hushidu. Especially Hushidu. The man's aura was hard to ignore. Now that he was wearing an elegant tailored suit, he looked light and arrogant. Hushidu's well-defined hand held a black long-handled umbrella, taking care that Bei Yunj could not bask in the sun. He then took out a bottle of cold water from the car and pressed it against Bei Yunj's cheek. This scene made the surrounding people extremely envious. Was there a mistake? He was butchering dogs during the college entrance examination. Bei Yunj held the man's warm hand very smoothly. When she rubbed the mineral water bottle, she also rubbed against the man's hand. She would be a fool not to take advantage of him. The man was used to it and only glanced at her casually. He laughed ambiguously. Just as Bei Yunj looked puzzled, she heard him smile unhurriedly. That's good. Brother likes our Yunj to be fearless. Bei Yunj was speechless. Bei Yunj immediately let go of his hand. In a way, Pei Qian was indeed unforgettable. He was clearly a bronze-level person who could fall ill from insomnia after being flirted with, but he still felt that he was a king. Suddenly, Teacher Wen's voice sounded in surprise. Isn't this Brother Bei Yunj? Teacher Wen. Hushidu nodded slightly. Teacher Wen, who was wearing a volunteer vest, greeted him and realized that Bei Yunj's expression was not right. Bei Yunj, are you not feeling well? Pei Yunj hummed lazily, her voice thick with nasality. Don't tell me you have a fever. Teacher Wen's expression changed. Pei Yunj's eyelids were slightly closed as she lifted them lazily, looking listless. Teacher Wen immediately panicked. How high is your fever? Are you feeling unwell? Don't be nervous, Bei Yunj. Do your best. You can definitely do it. Let me teach you, take a deep breath and calm down. Bei Yunj said. Teacher, you should calm down first. Why do you suddenly have a fever? Hearing Teacher Wen's noisy voice, Pei Yunj immediately turned to look at Hushidu. Brother, you can go back first. There's still a minute to go. I'll go over first. With that said, Pei Yunj turned around without thinking and prepared to leave. But in the next second, she was suddenly pulled back. The man's eyes were extremely dark. He stared straight at her and seemed to sigh. Brother is still quite nervous. Bei. Hushidu raised his eyebrows and looked at her patiently, as if he was really waiting for her to coax him. Pei Yunj, did he need her to coax him? She, who was sick, wasn't nervous to go to the examination hall. Why was he nervous? This thought had just appeared in Bei Yunja's mind, but before she could react, someone suddenly grabbed the back of her neck gently. In the next second, Bei Yunj took a step forward and the man bent down, pressing 2 warm kisses on her forehead. In that moment, the man moved away. When the people around saw this scene, they were immediately flirted. Wasn't this 2F** king tempting? Chapter 1131. The man's fingers caressed the back of her neck intimately, causing her to tremble. Do well, Yun Yun. However, the man's low laughter rang in her ears, as if there was no one else around. If you do well, everything will be yours. The others could not see the girl's face clearly. They could only see that the girl's ears were red. They did not know what the man had just said with a smile. Teacher Wen also felt that this seemed to have deviated from what he knew. Although he knew that Huashidu was not Bei Yunja's biological brother, he had always thought that he was her cousin or something. But wasn't the current direction a little wrong? She was stunned for 2 seconds as she looked at Bei Yunj. Sing Su, who was beside her, could not help but sigh. True love can indeed conquer everything. Miss Pei will definitely have endless inspiration and win the college entrance examination. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Bei Yunj turned around and bumped into someone. She was in so much pain that she immediately covered her head. He didn't seem to be a very smart person. Sing Su was speechless. Teacher Wen was speechless. It was over. She looked like she had drunk a box of vodka. Looking at Bei Yunja's back view as she left, Teacher Wen was almost depressed. How is it? I think I saw Bei Yunj go in just now. How is she? Bei Yunja's physics teacher asked with a smile. Teacher Wen said. She has a fever. She might be in a bad state. She's sick at this time. Is it serious? The physics teacher frowned. Teacher Wen instinctively looked at Huashidu. Sing Su answered first, 39 degrees Celsius. This time, the teachers fell silent. This was already a high fever. If it rose another 2 degrees, her brain would be damaged. How can she take the exam in this state? The language teacher beside him was also worried. That's right. The examinees from the previous cohort that I taught had a low fever that affected their performance. They were 20 to 30 points worse than usual. However, hearing their discussion, Teacher Hao of Class 1 was secretly delighted. He was overjoyed. Bei Yunj was already in such a state. Wasn't she basically saying goodbye to the top 3 in the cohort? She walked into the examination hall. The invigilator also noticed that Bei Yunj did not look too good. Student, are you not feeling well? Yes, I have a slight fever. Bei Yunja's voice was slightly hoarse. It didn't sound like she had a fever. The invigilator sighed. Come on, hang in there. Every year, there would be children who would catch a cold at this time. How unlucky. Thank you, teacher. Bei Yunj smirked. After returning to her seat, she touched her forehead. But soon, the test papers were handed out. The Chinese language exam. The teacher saw that the first person to put down her pen was Bei Yunj. Once he closed the paper, he fell asleep on the table. Seeing this, the teacher couldn't help but sigh. He secretly felt pity for this examinee. 2 exams were completed. Bei Yunj had just reached the door when she saw Chu Zhixing and Lu Yuanxi looking at her with a messy expression. It was as if he was admiring her strong will despite her physical disability. Master Pei, it's all right. If it doesn't work out, you can be my junior. Lu Yuanxi consoled. Bei Yunj couldn't be bothered to look at him and left. After a few exams, everyone in Hengda knew that the big boss who got first place in the college entrance examination had a high fever of 39 degrees Celsius. It was a pity that her fate was full of misfortune. Back at the Qin family's old mansion. How did Gu do? Old Master Qin was also very nervous. Bei Yunj nodded. Not bad. However, Qin Yu wanted to say something but hesitated. He pursed his lips and said in a bad tone, "Grandpa." They had just agreed not to mention the college entrance examination results, but the old master asked about it the moment they met. End of chapter. Chapter 1132. Old Master Qin knew that he had misspoken. Qin Yu found out from Huashidu that Bei Yunj had a high fever on the day of the college entrance examination and was in a daze. This score, it was already good enough that she could get a good score. "Grandpa, I'll go upstairs and rest for a while." With that said, Old Master Qin hurriedly agreed. However, after Bei Yunj went up, the men of the Qin family fell silent. All of them sat on the sofa with their heads lowered. They thought that Bei Yunj was depressed, but she still pretended to be calm. "What should we do now?" Old Master Qin could not help asking. Qin Luyan suddenly said, "When Gu-er recovers, let her go on a trip. This way, no one would be able to improve their results in front of her." "Sure. I happen to be free." Qin Lang immediately expressed his stance. Qin Yu laughed coldly. "You're a directionally challenged person. Are you worthy of going out with Gu-er?" "Brother, I think I'm more." Qin Lang could not be bothered with Qin Yu. He turned around, wanting to curry favor with Qin Luyan, but met Qin Luyan's cold gaze. "Are you all free?" Qin Luyan extinguished the cigarette in his hand and asked slowly. Qin Yu and Qin Lang shut up. However, in the end, the person who could accompany Bei Yunj on a trip had not been confirmed. Once Bei Yunj recovered, she went to the computing institute. Even Zhong Xinglin could not help but rack his brains when he heard that Bei Yunj was going to take the college entrance examination with a high fever of 39 degrees Celsius. "Gu-er, have you thought of which school you want to go to?" Zhong Xinglin asked. Bei Yunj continued to do her experiment. "Up to you." Hearing this, Zhong Xinglin glanced at Bei Yunj and could not help but feel sorry for her. Although Bei Yunj had been engrossed in her research these few days, Zhong Xinglin could occasionally see Bei Yunj sitting alone in the corridor in a daze. She looked like she had suffered a setback in her life. "Gu-er, although the higher-ups don't want you to reveal your identity, don't worry. I'll talk to the principal of Yun University and he will definitely give me face. Even if you fail the college entrance exam, you will still be admitted to Yun University." Bei Yunj. "No need. Elder Xiang went to visit the families of the top scorers today. How would he have the time to deal with you?" Si Qingyan chuckled. Zhong Xinglin's face darkened and he pretended to grab his weapon. "Si Qingyan, do you really think that my temper has been good these 2 years?" Si Qingyan was so frightened that he hid behind Bei Yunj. In reality, Zhong Xinglin was not angry because of Si Qingyan's words, but because he had visited the family of the top student today but did not look for Bei Yunj. The top 10 students of each high school were given the lowest score. The students who were most likely to be the city's top scorer were all visited at home. When Teacher Wen thought about how Bei Yunj had gone to take the exam with a high fever, he didn't ask Bei Yunj to estimate her score. Especially when he found out that the Qin brothers were preparing to send Bei Yunj on a trip to ease his mood, Bei Yunj glanced at Si Qingyan, who was about to be beaten up, and frowned. "Old master, I've calculated all the data you asked me to calculate for you." "So fast?" Zhong Xinglin was shocked. Usually, it would take him half a day to calculate. Did Bei Yunj count this as an hour? "Yes, take a look." Bei Yunj looked at the time and realized that tomorrow was the college entrance exam results day. Soon, Bei Yunj looked away, but she didn't know that the men in the Qin family couldn't sleep that night. The next day, the college entrance exam score system was almost crushed. The form teacher of Year 3 surrounded a computer and refreshed the results every 2 minutes. P.S. There's one more chapter. Chapter 1133. Why aren't Qin Youjiao's results out yet? The form teachers of the other classes could not help asking. Teacher Hao from Class 1 said with a smile, "Teacher Huang has never taught the city's top scholar before, right? The one with the highest score will be stopped." Teacher Huang almost rolled her eyes. It was as if she had taught the city's top scholar before. However, the first high score was Lu Yuanxi's. Candidate name, Lu Yuanxi Chinese, 120 Mathematics, 135 Foreign Language, 150 Science Comprehensive, 283 total, 688 city ranking, 11th, Lu Yuanxi is ranked 11th in the city. The others were envious. This Lu Yuanxi's original results were below average, but he was ranked 11th in the city for the college entrance examination. Only Teacher Wen frowned. It seems like the exam paper this time is indeed too difficult. Usually, the top 20 in Yuncheng had more than 700 points. But this year's 11th place only had 688 points. Enough, old one. Anyway, once the difficulty of the college entrance examination increases, the admission score will definitely drop. I estimate that Yun University's admission score won't be higher than 680 points. After the teachers finished discussing, another high score was obtained not long after. This time, it was from Class 1. He had made it to 700 points and was ranked 5th in the city. This made the teachers unable to believe that the 5th place in the city only had 702 points. What was the difficulty of the college entrance examination this time? It was too scary. However, before the form teachers could be shocked, there was a ding. Another student had a high score. Candidate name, Chu Zhixing Chinese, 139 Mathematics, 145 Foreign Language, 131 Science Comprehensive, 296 total, 711 city ranking, third in the city. There are actually so many people in the top 20 in our school. The form teachers were excited. They would definitely get their year-end bonus this time. There's still Qin Youjiao who hasn't had any results yet. Doesn't this mean that our school has taken the top 3 places in the city? Qin Youjiao will definitely be first. Don't forget that she still has bonus points. This year's bonus points will be directly counted into the ranking. Everyone was even more excited. Only Teacher Wen's eyes darkened when he thought of Bei Yunja's abnormal performance. He suddenly felt that he had let this child down. He had not taken good care of such a good seedling. When the time came, Bei Yunj would definitely be sad if she saw that Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing had done so well. Teacher Wen sighed. However, when he was about to leave, several form teachers lost control when they saw the new scores. Candidate name, Qin Language, 141 Mathematics, 140 Foreign Languages, 145 Comprehensive Science, 290 bonus points, 20 total score, 736 city ranking, 2 and 736 points. He's only in second place. All the form teachers suddenly felt their scalps turn numb. One had to know that Qin Youjiao had an additional point. Was there such a huge gap between the second place and the first place? Immediately, the homeroom teachers had mixed feelings. They originally thought that the city's top scorer would definitely be Hengda's. But in the end, such a dark horse appeared. Qin Youjiao had added 20 points, but she wasn't even higher than first place. The one with the worst expression was still Teacher Hao. He originally thought that she would definitely become the city's top scorer. He was even the provincial champion. But in the end, Qin Youjiao actually added 20 points and didn't even get first place. Mr. Hao glanced at Qin Youjiao's provincial and national volleyball. The province ranked 3rd, and the country ranked 4th. This was already very high. Alright, now that we've seen the scores, let's summarize the results of our classes. Although he was unwilling, he had to admit that this examinee was probably an immortal. When everyone heard this, they could only silently prepare to leave. But just as everyone was about to leave, the computer suddenly rang. A teacher was confused. What's going on? There are still students whose scores haven't been recorded. P.S. Good night. Chapter 1134. The teacher closest to her felt that it was strange and immediately walked to the computer. After refreshing it, he almost cursed. F***CK. What's going on? Hearing the form teacher of class 5 making a fuss, someone could not help but say, "Don't be so surprised." What happened? First place, the form teacher of class 5 stuttered and could not speak. So what if she's first? Look at you. You've been in school for 5 to 6 years, why can't you calm down? The grade director walked over and looked at the computer screen with a frown. However, when he saw it clearly in the next second, he froze. I first place, Bei Yunj. As soon as he finished speaking, all the form teachers looked at the computer. Then, they all looked at Teacher Wen strangely. Teacher Wen also looked up and his body trembled. What? Who? But soon, the form teachers gathered in front of the computer and no one answered Teacher Wen's question. Examinee name, Bei Yunj Chinese, 149 Mathematics, 150 Foreign Language, 150 Science Comprehensive, 300 total marks, 749 City Ranking, First Province Ranking, First National Ranking, First. Everyone looked down and their hairs stood on end. What kind of suffocating operation was this? Bei Yunj was first in the national ranking. Old one, are you sure that Bei Yunj went to the examination hall with a high fever? Someone could not help asking with a trembling voice. Teacher Wen regained his senses and nodded blankly. Yes, Bei Yunj had a high fever those days and her face was as red as an egg. When she came out, I even asked her how she did. She said that she didn't finish the essay and was too sleepy. All the form teachers were silent. The ending was not finished and only 1 point was deducted. Besides, she had gone to the college entrance examination with a high fever of 39 degrees Celsius. In the end, she even became the top scholar in the national college entrance examination. This college entrance examination was a nightmare for others. It had even been trending many times because the questions were too difficult. But this person seemed to be unaffected. Qin Youjiao added 20 points and was still more than 10 points behind her. What kind of godlike standard was this? She did very well. Teacher Wen was surprised. If it wasn't for the fact that the others couldn't find any traces of acting on Teacher Wen's face, they would definitely beat him up. The form teachers were expressionless. Can't you King see for yourself? Teacher Wen walked to the computer in confusion, but when he saw Bei Yunj's results, he almost fell back. His mind seemed to have been blown. Zhuang Yuan. Mr. Wen's face was full of horror. He didn't expect that his first student would be a national champion. The homeroom teachers, what to do? Seeing this idiot's expression, he was even more annoyed. At this time, the homeroom teacher of class 1 also had an extremely ugly expression on his face. The homeroom teacher of class 5 could not help but ask, didn't you ask her how she did on the exam? Mr. Wen, how would I dare to ask? She said her results were average. At that time, he was afraid that Bei Yunj would be in a bad mood and do something stupid. Everyone else, you call this average? Under the death stares of a group of people, Teacher Wen could only brace himself and call Bei Yunj. However, after calling 4 or 5 times, the other party finally picked up. Speak. The other party's clear and melodious voice was slightly hoarse, revealing a hint of impatience. Bei Yunj didn't even look at the note. Everyone, was this the temper of the national champion? Teacher Wen. Yunj, have you checked the results? Chapter 1135. Hearing Teacher Wen's voice, Bei Yunj was silent for a moment. No. Then, aren't you going to take a look? Teacher Wen hinted crazily. Unexpectedly, the other party didn't say anything at first. Not long after, she laughed lazily. Old one, there's no need to cast a shadow over my dear classmates at such a happy age, right? This person was still the most arrogant. Teacher Wen was speechless. All the form teachers were speechless. Teacher Wen couldn't help but ask, aren't you afraid that you'll perform badly? Bei Yunj was silent for a moment, then gently pressed her closed eyes with her palm. Old one, I hope you understand that I'm having a high fever, not that my brain is damaged. Teacher Wen was speechless. At this moment, the atmosphere became even stranger and colder. In the end, when he hung up the phone, Teacher Wen was still in a daze. Bei Yunj also got out of bed and prepared to wash up. Downstairs. Old Master Qin was still drinking tea and playing cards with his mahjong partners. Old Su, don't you think that National Politics University can build a few more buildings? Old Master Qin hinted crazily. Principal Su was speechless. What are you trying to do? Did something happen to my granddaughter during the college entrance examination? She had a high fever and didn't perform well. This was the first time Old Master Qin had shamelessly asked for connections. After all, Qin Luyan and the rest went to either Nili University or Yunqing University. No. Absolutely not. Principal Su immediately rejected him. He was wondering why this old fox asked him to play cards every day. After going around in circles, this was what he was waiting for. One had to know that Country A's University of Political Science and Law was a top-notch university in the country. As the principal, if he used his position for personal gain, wouldn't he be stepping on the reputation of the University of Political Science and Law and crazily testing the edge of danger? Principal Su rolled his eyes. Can you do it? Don't make things difficult for me. At most, I can give you a special bonus, but it won't be much. With that said, Principal Su sensed that something was wrong again. No, I heard that the admissions teams of Beichuan and Yun University specially went to look for your granddaughter. How could she not do well? As soon as he finished speaking, the two mahjong partners beside him pinched his thigh and gave him a hint with their eyes. Why didn't this old Su listen to any gossip? As expected. Old Master Qin was silent for a moment before he said lightly, Old Su, my granddaughter's name is Bei Yunj. You've been in Nili for the past 2 years, so you still don't know the situation. When Principal Su heard this, he immediately fell silent. After more than half a lifetime, who wouldn't be an expert? As for the other two, it was more or less a pity. Everyone in the industry had witnessed Qin Youjiao's excellence in all aspects back then. It was a pity that she was not the Qin family's biological child. The only reason he lost was because he didn't reincarnate well. Suddenly, a voice from outside the door intruded on their conversation. Dad, do you have to be so biased? Old Master Qin turned around and saw that it was Mother Qin. His face darkened and he became more vigilant. What are you doing here? For the past few days, the last thing he wanted was for Mother Qin to appear at the old mansion and use Qin Youjiao's grades to provoke Bei Yunj. After all, Mother Qin was Bei Yunj's biological mother. Old Master Qin was afraid that Bei Yunj would be sad. However, what Old Master Qin was thinking was exactly what Mother Qin was thinking. However, the difference was that Mother Qin had come this time to help Qin Youjiao regain her face. Jiao Jiao scored 736 points. I want to hold a banquet for Jiao Jiao and hope you can come too.